randomly months
Right.
later, just a few months later, not to name the stadium.
So that's it. From the soccer team's perspective, it's a big deal. I don't think it is crushing. I
Right.
think it's something that they can overcome. I am just more curious as to what it means for Centene generally, because if you do have a Fortune 500 company in your town and you don't have a ton of them, I think you want to hang on to every single one of them. Does this indicate they're going to leave? Does this indicate that they're just going to invest less in the city? Because first of all, I'm not exactly sure that's what that means. I think none of us are sure, and maybe we'll get
Right.
some notice on this later. Hopefully, we will soon. But there are I have never that I can remember. I can't think of a time when a company has paid for naming rights for a stadium and gotten out of it so quickly before
Mhm.
a game was even played. I don't even know if that's ever happened. If it has, it's been on a very small scale. So I don't know anything about that. I haven't seen that before. But Centene is a national company as well.
Mhm.
And there is precedent for there not being presence within the town that the stadium is named for your company, but you are still a national company. US Cellular Field, which is where the White Sox play, it's not called that anymore. Now it's Guaranteed Rate Field. But when it was US Cellular Field, there was at one point in time, US Cellular had pulled out of Chicago. They weren't there anymore, but they were operating nationally. They kept the naming rights deal.
Mhm.
And I know every naming rights deal is different, but I wonder if this could mean that, that there's uh, they are going to leave, they're going to stay, because even if they're going to end up leaving, I would think that it would still benefit them to have the naming
Right.
rights on a stadium, even if they're not necessarily in that town, because they are a national
Yeah.
company.
And I would have to look at where they are right now. But, at one point recently, they were a top Fortune 25 company. I mean, this is a massive multi
It's a
billion
big
dollar
deal.
company. And they did reach an agreement with a quote activist investor, Politan Capital, in December of 2021. And that investment group wanted Clayton to bolster its profit margins and stock price. And so then Centene moved forward with shedding 65% of its leased office space nationally. We already mentioned several of the campuses that they were going to expand, which they are no longer expanding, whether it's Clayton or in North Carolina. So is it something that's simply about profit margin? Again,
Well,
that's not a huge price. Naming the stadium, if it's $5 million a year for 15 million, is a lot.
it's interesting
But
because there was just the story yesterday before we got this news about the naming rights deal that Centene had beaten their quarterly estimates.
mhm.
So in terms of profits, so I really don't know what's going on there, and I know we're going to try to get to the bottom of it, but hopefully it does not indicate that a big company is going to pull out more and more from this area.
Yeah, and at this point, we know that there's an impact on the stadium and
Mhm.
obviously the MLS club. And from City's perspective, like we said, it's a problem, but it's not a deal breaker. It's
Mhm.
not something that crushes what you're trying to do, even in year one. And I would assume that somebody will step up to grab that naming rights sponsorship at some point. There's just no reason why they wouldn't. But you're not going to be able to turn from one deal to the next at the time that an announcement is made. If
Right.
I don't know when Centene made this decision or when the conversations happen, but I can't imagine you're going to like turn from that and go immediately, "Hey, I got an opportunity for you. You want to do this now?
Yeah.
Yes, let's do it now." It's going to take some time to figure that out, and it wouldn't even shock me if it's in place before the first season starts. I mean, you still have until March before you have a home match. You've got till the end of February before the season starts, so there's plenty of time for some of that, if not all of that, to be made up in another way. So from the
Yeah.
team's perspective, I don't think it's that worrisome.
It's just
It's just the bigger picture concern. Is there more?
yeah, because it's interesting. Again, this investment group reached an agreement with Centene in December of 2021. In February of 2022, that's when I believe Centene announced that it had the 15-year naming rights deal with the
Yeah.
new stadium in Midtown or downtown. And I mean, 15 years, that's looking ahead a bit when you are buying that chunk of time. So at some point, the vision shifted significantly regarding the importance of Centene's name being on that new MLS stadium.
I'm going to offer up something.
What's that?
Here's an idea.
The show stadium?
We don't.
Let's go.
We don't have the funds for it.
What?
I got to check.
Yeah, we don't have.
Yeah, that's a lot. 3 million, 4 million?
Per year.
Yeah.
We could probably get it at a bargain now.
Yeah, but still.
All right, here's what I'm thinking. We want to keep it local, right?
Yeah.
Anheuser-Busch owns Natter Days.
It's InBev now.
Well,
Right,
Anheuser-Busch
right.
is still it's here, right?
Yeah.
So it could be Natter Days Field at City Park. I love a good Natter Days. You ever had one?
No.
Kind of a
It's
Hoosier.
no, yeah, kind of. So
Like, I mean, it could be Stagfield, like
No,
that
I-
type of thing.
No,
No,
they'll
I-
figure all that out.
Natter Days Field. Come on, it's lemonade beer.
Is that going to be our draft this
Where-
week?
Natter
Our
Days
draft
Field,
later on the week? Should we draft
Yes.
potential
Yeah.
sponsorship names?
where every day is
Is that
Natter
our draft
Day.
tomorrow or
No,
Friday?
no, Friday. No, I'm asking.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think it
saying
should
We might have
should.
to wait till next because Friday is going to have to be some Halloween.
Oh, that's a good point. Yep,
You know,
yep. We'll definitely have to do that.
Where every day is Natter Day.
Yeah, it's good
At
times.
Natter
Yes.
Days Field.
Good times. All right, coming up at 10:30, we're going to talk to our own Megan Lynch. She does the What the Media podcast and have a bit of an understanding of how political ads are set up, why you hear the ads that you hear, what broadcast companies can and cannot do about the content of ads. That'll all be coming up after the news at 10:30. Up next, speaking of elections and such, I think the story is great. There's a grandma in Arizona that took a camera out and confronted armed men watching over ballot boxes, drop boxes. We'll hear from her a little bit next up on the show.
All right, Ranj, I know you agree with me that it is the best time of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy. It's not even an argument. So I am so excited to partner once again with the Salvation Army. And the Salvation Army is celebrating 75 years of their Tree of Lights in St. Louis. So if you have a business, join the Salvation Army and supporting those less fortunate by displaying an angel tree this November. So what is an angel tree? It is a Christmas tree that you provide. You can put it in your lobby, in your office space, your retail space. So you provide the tree and the Salvation Army will provide the ornaments. And the key is in the ornaments. Each ornament is a piece of paper that has a child in need on the piece of paper along with their list of Christmas wants and needs. And then your employees or your customers, you pick an ornament and then you go shopping for that child. And you can provide Christmas gifts for a child who otherwise might not have any gifts to open on Christmas morning. Do you know last year, the Salvation Army served over 4,000 children in the St. Louis area through their Angel Tree program. To learn more, go to salarmymidland.org. That's salarmymidland.org.
We're days away from the midterms that will impact the direction of this country. You're being bombarded with messages. Good luck sifting through the information yourself.
When I do a search on Google and you do a search on Google, we're getting very different results.
What are media outlets responsible for?
You hold your nose and you air the ad.
Information, misinformation, disinformation, and the midterms coverage you'll find only on KMOX.
Men suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, regardless of age or past medical history, you'll see instant results on your first visit at Paramount Men's Medical Center. And for a limited time, your initial consultation and first treatment are totally free. Call now, 314-720-8081.
This time of year, you might notice that the brick in your patio is going astray. Call Morelli. Hi, this is Charlie Brennan for Morelli Tuck Pointing, which has won every award possible in this industry, including the Better Business Bureau Torch Award, which is only given to companies with exceptional customer service. Morelli Tuck Pointing is the masonry specialist, serving St. Louis and beyond for 31 years. Morelli can do completely solid houses and buildings, spot pointing with color match, brick and stone repair, foundation repair, walkways, porches, patios, caulking, waterproofing solutions, and much more. Family owned and operated, and a lot of longtime employees that are like family. Call and request a free and quick estimate at 314-645-1387 or online at MorelliTuckPointing.com. And don't forget to check out their great reviews on the Google and Better Business Bureau websites. 314-645-1387 or MorelliTuckPointing.com. Hey
guys, Glover here from my friends at Zero Res, carpet cleaning experts. Great time of year to get your carpets cleaned. Football season, the kids are back from break. They're running around the house. They're playing games. They're rolling around on the carpet. You have the holidays coming up. It's cold and flu season, and we all know that your carpets hold in things like that, just nastiness and dirt and dander and dust and skin cells and pet stuff and pizza because of the laws of gravity. Well, this month's DGS KMOX special is the more you clean, the more you save. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $129, or get 5 rooms starting at just $199. That is a 43% savings. Book now to get the best carpet cleaning deal of this season. And don't forget about your air ducts, $75 off air duct cleaning. And don't forget, Zero Res is hiring right now. So give us a call, 314-474-2020 or ZeroResSTL.com. Spell it backwards, spell it forwards, ZeroResSTL.com.
News, talk, sports. The voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
We've come along. Right, back in on the show, Chris Ranji, Amy Mark Scores, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Megan Lynch is going to join us from the KMOX newsroom after the 10:30 news. We'll be talking about the political ads that you hear. There are rules that broadcast companies have to follow about what can air, what has to air, what can be edited, what cannot be changed. I'm going to explain all of that to you because obviously coming up on the elections, you're going to be hearing more and more of those, and it's important to understand. And of course, Megan covering this as a part of the What the Media podcast. Speaking of the elections, I know I sent you guys this story. I have a little clip here to set this up. Little clip that is from a CNN story, but this is a woman in Arizona who is described as a Phoenix area grandma who saw, I don't know if you've seen, in Arizona, they've got guys out in tactical gear, their faces covered, carrying long guns. Open carry is a thing in Arizona, so this is not illegal. They're not doing anything against the law, but they're standing outside of voting drop boxes,
as one does,
as of course you would, and of course you need to be armed to do that. You can't just sit and watch and monitor.
To clarify, these are citizens.
Yes,
not law enforcement.
Right,
and it's not every drop box, but it is some drop boxes.
Well, the grandma went up to them and took her phone and videoed them, uncovered a license plate and got a shot of one of their license plates, got up close to one of the guys and who had his mask pulled down a little bit, so you got to see a little bit of his face, and they harassed her. I mean, they gave her a hard time. And I think it's funny that I think it's, first of all, if you're doing nothing wrong, why would you cover your face and your license plate? I mean,
there's a lot of anonymity going on.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's pretty cool. Here's just a couple of seconds from this woman, just her talking about what she did and why she did it.
I'm standing up and pushing back against those people and standing up for everybody's right to vote. You don't mind if I set up right here, do you? Without fear of retaliation or any kind of intimidation. You know, I don't talk. I take care of business. I go out there and I do what I have to do. Hey, don't touch me.
Yeah, got a little hairy. Not super bad. It wasn't like a major assault or anything like that, but they were getting up in her face, and eventually police showed up. And she was at that point sitting down in a chair, just kind of like near them. And she was telling the police, like, hey, I'm just sitting here. He's the one standing over me wearing a gun, you know? And I think it's fascinating that we're at this point. And the sheriff of that county, in Maricopa County, which is one of the biggest counties in the country, the sheriff essentially said, look, if this is going to keep happening, then we're going to have to put sheriff's deputies where all of these things are to make sure nothing's happening. And that's going to take away from protecting other things. That's going to take away from investigating burglaries. It's going to take away from patrolling the streets. And this is all super unnecessary.
Well, this is, this is what happens when you've done for over a couple of years now, letting people think that there is massive voter fraud and that people are doing weird things at drop boxes. They're not. There isn't massive voter fraud. They've gone to court over this dozens of times. Every single one of those cases has been thrown out. with the exception of like one, but it was something minor.
That was procedural, I believe.
Yeah,
on
and had
how
right.
close people could stand to a recount. That's
Yeah,
what
I mean,
think
it was like it's just the whole thing is nonsensical, and you've stoked that for a couple of years. This is the end result. I do think that people should be smarter about the information they digest and realize that they're being lied to about this stuff, and that they're not. I mean, they are not doing a better job of digesting it, but this is the end result. This is what happens when you tell people an election has been stolen from them when it hasn't.
And if you're wondering, okay, why exactly were people with armed, with guns and tactical gear outside a Dropbox? Well, the people who were anonymously with their license plates covered up, their faces covered, standing outside the drop boxes, at least to some voters in Phoenix, they've said, hey, those guys were calling us mules. They were taking pictures of our license plates.
Right.
The armed guys were following, taking pictures of the people dropping off their ballots, saying, hey, you guys could be mules. You could be part of the conspiracy. It's so dangerous. And again, to cast suspicion upon fellow citizens, fellow voters, people in your community, to drive that wedge of division to the point that you're accusing them of stealing the election is so unhealthy. I mean, our communities, that's the foundation of a democracy, of a constitutional republic. It starts with the family unit and then moves on to the neighborhoods and the communities. Those communities come first before the federal government. Your loyalty, right, is with you, your family, your neighbor, saying we're in this together.
Well, let's follow I mean, I know this is hard because you're not necessarily talking to a group of people that are thinking logically, but you're standing there observing. I don't know why you need to be armed to do this. I mean, if you think there's something worrisome, all right, stand there and watch and make sure nobody's dumping a basket of ballots into the thing. Fine. But the person you're looking at might have voted for the candidate that you're voting for.
Oh, there have been.
You have no idea what you're even looking at. You have no idea. I mean, what, you're recording their license plate number for what? They could have voted for who you're voting for. What are you going to actually do about any of this?
There have been documented incidents of people voting for the guy who's calling the elections rigged, voting for him twice, doing it on purpose.
But forgetting that.
But what I'm saying is, like, it has happened. None of it has happened on a large scale, though. You have those little small incidents. His voters, maybe some others who have made a mistake, but it's not widespread. It's not widespread. But these people who are standing at the ballot boxes, and let's be honest, they're trying to intimidate folks from going and doing their civic duty by voting. That's what they're trying to do.
Well, that's the point, right? Because when you think of it logically, there is no logical good outcome from their perspective because you don't know what anybody's putting into that box.
Right.
You're not policing anything unless you see somebody with a basket of ballots dumping them in there, which is not happening.
Unless we, catastrophize this. It is important to note, so far, this is, these are isolated incidents. There's thousands upon thousands of drop boxes, and I would hope, most Americans are not taking those steps. So hopefully this is an end of this type of action.
A little bit later on, we'll be talking about election security in our area with Rick Stream. He's the Republican Director of Elections for St. Louis County. That'll be coming up later on. Up next, Megan Lynch joins us from the KMOX newsroom. We're going to talk about all those political ads you hear.
Looking for smart, intelligent conversation in your afternoon.
Isn't it amazing to you guys, observing life, how smart the American public is? Because we all knew that.
Then you need the Dave Glover Show.
Whenever I did jury trials, I always trusted the juries. Like, somehow they took it seriously, and they typically came to the right conclusion, even if it was against me. Like, yeah, you got me on that. And I feel that way about the American people as a whole. Like, we're smart.
Make the smart choice. The Dave Glover Show. Weekdays beginning at 2 on KMOX. If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at LanceDruryLaw.com.
Chad here with ClaymanGroup.com, KLAMEN Group.com, where we buy property as is. For those of you not paying attention, the market is changing and prices aren't continuing to rise. If you've thought about selling your house in the past few years, now is the time before the market changes even more. I'm here to make you a cash offer and a quick close on your timeline. 314-946-9999, 314-946-9999. Call today for an as-is offer. ClaymanGroup.com.
At 10:30, we have 49 degrees, clear skies downtown at the Arch. I'm Stuart McMillan in the news. No classes for the rest of the week for students at Central Visual and Performing Arts and Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience high schools. The announcement follows the fatal shooting of a student and teacher Monday at CVPA. 2-week early voting period in the city of St. Louis is a part of a new law that also requires people to show a government-issued photo identification when voting in person. Those without photo ID can cast provisional ballots, which would count if voters later return with an ID or their signature matches what's on file with election authorities. Former CEO of Express Scripts has died. George Paz was 67, and the family says he died unexpectedly on Sunday. Paz had recently received a Lifetime Achievement Award from UMSL's Entrepreneur Program. It happened just last Thursday. Stalled vehicle, 64 westbound, still causing problems. This is at Market Street. Be prepared to stop in that area. Also at 364 past Route K, there's a stalled vehicle on the right shoulder. Weather, high of 60 today. A little bit cooler right now as we're sitting around 49. 41 the low tonight. Tomorrow, 63. Some cloud sunshine. 66 on Friday. Right now in St. Peter's, 50. In Fullerton, it's 49. And downtown to the Arch, same degree. 49 and a clear sky. I'm Stuart McMillan, KMOX News.
Football season is here. The new Odyssey app lets you stay connected to your NFL team, your station, your shows. Follow your favorite stations and come back again and again. Get real-time updates on everything you care about. Miss your show? Jump back to our awesome Rewind feature. The Odyssey app is NFL football. Live and on demand, wherever you are, whenever you want. And did we mention it's all free? Download the Odyssey app today.
Charlie Brennan sees clearly thanks to Dr. Birdie and Malhotra. You can too. Go to youridoc.com today or call 314-966-5000.
Driven by the Bomarito Automotive Group, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
KMOX with the St. Louis Odyssey stations will once again partner with you to raise funds for SSM Health Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital through the Tree of Hope program. Thanks to you, we have raised more than $170,000 over the past 2 years. Cardinal Glennon has touched many lives over the years. If you have a story to share, we'd love to hear it. Sign up at KMOX.com/Cardinal Glennon or text HOPE to 20357.
Your home of the Cardinals.
Arenado swings and hits it deep to left field. That ball is out of there.
The Billikens.
Jumper. Yes! Billikens win!
The Chiefs.
Touchdown! Kansas City!
We are America's sports voice, KMOX.
10:33 on the show. Chris Raji, Amy Mark Scores, Kevin Wheeler with you here, and Megan Lynch in from the KMOX newsroom. Good morning, Megan.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing good.
Yeah, good to see you. Appreciate you jumping in and talking to us about this because I heard a bit of your segment the other day, and we were actually all three of us were listening to the segment about political ads.
Mm-hmm.
It's at that time of year, November 8th, right around the corner. We're going to hear tons and tons of them. And you were explaining a bunch of things that I didn't really fully know because people always ask me, why do you air all of these ads? Can't you say, wait a minute, that one can't go and that one can't go? But there are very specific rules that broadcast companies have to follow to start this off, right?
There are, and I had personally forgotten a lot of it from my days studying media law way back when in school.
Yeah.
That's been some decades ago. So I went to Sandy Davidson. She is with the Mizzou Journalism School. She's also an attorney. And she ran down the process for me in one of our recent What the Media podcasts. And so it was a really good refresher. And I actually had a really great exchange with someone on Twitter, believe it or not, on Twitter.
A good one?
Yeah, a very good
You didn't
one.
mean great, like in the ironic sense.
No, like a really good where I was able to, they were asking me questions about a certain campaign ad that ran. And I said, let me check my facts and get back to you. And was able to say, yes, this is what we're responsible for. This is what we're not. So a lot of what it boils down to is when it comes to a federal candidate, we have to air it.
Okay. No matter what is said.
Yep. We have to air it. But we also
presidential,
yep.
Senate, House of Representatives.
Yeah. And they have to be like they have to be a confirmed candidate.
Okay.
Yeah. Can't just be like some guy off the
Can't
street.
just be me.
saying
I can't take
right
up a
in.
collection
No.
and
No.
All right.
Gotcha.
At
So
the
it has
last
to be
minute?
like a
Okay.
federally certified candidate.
Okay.
Also, but what that means for us as broadcasters is that we cannot be held liable for libel or obscenity, indecency, any of those things that typically we could be held accountable for. The other thing, though, that people will say, and what Sandy Davidson said, is that also leads to, is there misinformation floating out there because of these ads? Is it really a service to voters? But I guess that's on the candidates.
So when you say federal candidate, again, this would be, for instance, the Senate seat for Eric Schmidt, Trudy Bush Valentine. You
Pritzker, Bailey.
have to air those.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
We have to air those. We have to give them a good time. We can't bury them at midnight.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason why the rules for us as broadcasters for radio and TV are different than, for example, social media platforms or print is that the airwaves are considered a precious commodity. It's limited. And so we have the privilege of being on the airwaves. So it's a scarce resource. So we have to give that time.
Right. And again, for obvious reasons, they don't want to leave it up to the individual stations to decide on their own discretion. Oh, we're going to air this ad or not air another ad. Do candidates ever say, hey, it seems that you're giving this candidate a better time slot? Like, how do you make sure that the ads are equal as they can be?
They can question that. And there's a file that stations have to keep with the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, demonstrating when they have aired these ads, what the rates have been, all of those things. We have to document that because any member of the public can question what has been aired.
And there isn't any requirement that you have to air an equal amount of campaign ads for a federal candidate, right? Like, so you don't have to, if there's an hour worth of Bailey ads, you don't have to give an hour's worth to Pritzker. It's just whatever they pay for, right?
That is really a good question. Now, they would be considered a state. So the rules for Bailey and Pritzker would be a little bit different.
Oh, yeah, they're governor. That's right. Right.
Yeah,
So, my bad.
So go ahead and finish that part. That's interesting, though, because if they don't...
So let's say Trudy Bush Valentine and Eric Schmidt.
If one tries to buy 100 ads and another buys 50, you don't have to give them 50 free. That would be ridiculous.
No, I don't believe so.
Right.
But I would have to check on that. I'm not certain how that would work.
I
But
think it's equal opportunity that you have to give them. So if
So,
somebody
like,
buys 100 and the other says, well, we want 100 too, you got to be able to accommodate that.
yeah, and you can't, for example, air one of them at a time like 7 o'clock in the morning when you've got a ton of people listening, and then bury the other one at midnight.
So
you can't do that.
What is the recourse for a station if they just really object to the content of an ad where it is so misleading and it's so egregiously terrible? Can they at least go to the campaign and say, hey, I know you've paid for this, but is there any way that you could, I mean, not that they're going to listen, but can stations do that?
Not for a federal candidate.
Okay.
No, they can. I mean, they could say we don't like it, but I mean, it's not going to.
That's
It's not going to
interesting.
change it. They have to air it. Now, what I've heard stations do in years past is, especially, I've heard this more in television, but they'll run an opinion piece saying we had to air this ad.
Oh, okay.
This is our objection to it. These are the facts. I mean,
So
I've
you can
heard
do
that
a
in the past.
disclaimer if you wanted to.
No,
I don't
it's
think
not
you-
attached. It's a
no,
separate
yeah,
program.
yeah,
Completely
yeah.
separate.
So it'd be,
Okay.
would it be, Megan, like us doing that?
It would be like an op-ed.
So if something, say for example, there was a
Yeah.
spot and we heard and we're like, that's a lie, and we're talk show hosts, we can come out and say, all right, that's misleading. Here's the real story, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's okay, right? Okay.
Yeah. Now, for state candidates,
Not that I want to do that or anything.
Yeah. For state and local candidates, the rules are a little bit different. And it's not necessarily content driven, but you do have to treat it equally. So let's say the station decided we are not going to carry any ads for a certain congressional seat. We can make that choice and we
Okay.
can deny all candidates for whatever particular congressional seat that might be. But if one candidate from, let's say, state treasurer comes to us and says we want to air an ad, then we have to air an ad from their opponents as well. We have to give them roughly equal time on the air and provide that. Now, the one type of ad we can question are PACs, political action committees.
Okay.
Because they're not allowed to donate directly to the candidates.
Local and
That-
federal, like all
Mhm.
elections.
Mhm.
As long as it's a PAC, we can question those.
Yeah. We can deny them.
Oh.
We can question them. If they contain information that the station considers libelous or indecent, a station could ask one of those campaigns to change that because if we broadcast that and it is found to be, we were sued and it's found to be indecent or, found to be libelous, we could face extreme penalties. I mean, the fines for some of this stuff it's incredible. It's in the thousands of dollars.
So from candidates, federal candidates, we can change nothing, we can object to nothing. And I mean like the entire industry. The industry cannot challenge, question, or choose not to air them from the campaigns themselves.
Yep.
But anything from a political action committee separate from that is a different set of standards.
Yeah. And those ads do come with some requirements for how they're handled on the air. They have to, for example, say, where the money is coming from to put this ad on the air.
It's interesting about the PACs, and if you get ads from PACs, as so many ads are from these political action committees, it does put a responsibility on the station then, where you're vetting that commercial or that ad, and how laborious is that when, as campaign ads are, they're just ugly, like this person, and they just say the worst generic accusations against their political opponent. At what point do you say, well, this seems kind of ambiguous? Is this right? I mean, that's kind of a discretionary decision.
And I think what it comes down to as well is some of these do contain nuggets of truth.
Yeah.
A lot of them contain some nugget of truth. So, it is a big responsibility. But I think too, though, if you've ever been, I always go back to this example. If you've ever been to the Abraham Lincoln Museum in Springfield, Illinois, if you've ever seen the exhibit that shows all the political cartoons and the ads against Abraham Lincoln, they were incredible. They were vulgar and foul. And so, it's kind of like, well, it's really not any different today.
And that was going to be my question to you, because whenever we are experiencing anything in real time, it always feels like this is the worst time ever. Like these campaign ads are as bad as they've ever been. But historically speaking, there have been worse times. I don't know if we should grade ourselves up against 1860s
Probably not.
United States. I think we should be a little better than that. But it just seems like living in now, things are worse and ads are worse. But I guess they're really not necessarily.
I don't necessarily think that they are. I think that campaigns find new ways to shock us and get our attention. I mean, that's the point of an ad, right? Is to get your attention. So, I don't necessarily think that they're any worse than what we've seen centuries past.
Isn't it primarily it's distribution and capability, meaning using the term media in the sense that an artist would, the media, whether it's the television ad or the radio ad, and you have sound effects and you have graphics or you have whatever it may be, the technology has advanced that you can make over-the-top ads and distribute them to more people than ever before. Whereas Abraham Lincoln had a pamphlet. Pamphlets were huge, newspapers, and that's just not the same impact. It's immediate and it's distribution across, the entire voting base.
And I think we can't forget the questions of free speech. We have to frame all of this under free speech. And there have been a lot of court cases, pertaining to political advertising and free speech and how far that goes.
Sorry, you've been doing this stuff with the What the Media podcast for a long time, and you've covered a lot of topics. I get asked this a lot, and I don't know that it's even totally apples to apples, but I get asked a lot, if advertisers have to tell the truth in ads, why don't candidates have to also live up to that same standard? I don't know there's a good answer. Is that something that's covered by, maybe it's just simply the First Amendment, or it's just, well, who writes the rules, right? And they get to decide.
Yeah, I would have to go back. There have been a number of court cases, and I'm going to have to refer people to my conversation with Sandy Davidson, because right now I can't, my brain isn't functioning to pull up the exact examples of why the law is the way it is. But she does spell that out very clearly in my discussion with her for What the Media.
So KMOX.com, click on the little podcast tab. The What the Media podcast is there, and that is the one from October 19th, correct?
Yes.
I don't know if you can reveal this information, whether it's a station we're familiar with or just an example from your conversation. Did you see any examples of ads that were turned down by television or radio because It was sponsored by a PAC and it was deemed libelous.
I don't know that I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Money.
I think, we'll take the money. We'll take it.
But
Yeah.
I'm not part, and that's a criticism that our industry takes a lot. That it's you stations. People say stations want the money.
Yep.
You're taking in that money and you're airing those ads, and people criticize that, but I don't know. I mean, it happens for free on social media all the time that these same types of things go out there for free.
Good stuff. Megan, thank you so much.
Oh,
We
thank you
appreciate it.
for
And again,
having
I
me
want to
on.
remind everybody the What the Media podcast is updated regularly. In fact, you've had an update since that October 19th conversation as well, right?
That's
a
right.
New episode out.
All kinds of things. We're looking at information, misinformation, disinformation related to the midterms, giving folks some sources that they can go to. That's going to be our next one. Votesmart.org. I spoke with those folks about how you can really drill down and get information about candidates.
Megan, you're the best.
Oh,
Thanks
thank
so
you
much.
for having
we
me
appreciate
on.
it. No, it's a great podcast. And I learned something every single time. So thanks for the work. We'll talk to you out there in a minute.
Thank you.
Megan Lynch is in from the KMOX newsroom with us. And again, What the Media podcast, KMOX.com, podcast tab. It's right there. You should definitely want to get yourself educated. But the one we're talking about is the October 19th. All right, coming up next, we'll get to what's trending and, of course, tell you what some of the news stories are that we haven't gotten to yet here on the show.
2022 is the year for that diamond upgrade. Time to go from a 1 carat to a 2 carat, or a 2 carat up to a 4 or 5 carat. It's true, going bigger is in, but that doesn't mean you have to overpay or compromise on quality. Diamonds Direct is your best destination for large, unique, and rare diamonds. These are exquisite, hand-picked precious diamonds from 2 carats to 20 carats, in all shapes, independently graded by the GIA. These diamonds have all been chosen for maximum brilliance. Best part, Diamonds Direct's stunning large diamonds are sourced from the best ethical diamond cutters around the globe, purchased exclusively for our showroom, and free from any broker or middleman upcharges. This means you can go bigger with the confidence that you're getting the highest quality at the best possible price nationwide. You see, at Diamonds Direct, we're more than just another jewelry store. We're the nation's true diamond experts with unrivaled selection, uncompromising standards, and unbeatable value. Let us prove it today with your diamond upgrade. Diamonds Direct. Get directions, showroom hours, and more at diamondsdirect.com.
Hi guys, it's Andrew. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Well, today, Wednesday, October 26th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pineview Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow, treating the root cause problem of ED. It's backed by 60 studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain that spark in the bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. Also, a gift that can produce rapid results in the bedroom. You're going to love that, guys, trust me. And today only, we're offering 5 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is unprecedented, worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify free. 314-530-7777. That's 314-530-7777. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Pineview Medical Clinic now to qualify. 314-530-7777.
It's easy to think all money managers are pretty much the same, but at Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Different? How? You sell high commission investment products, right?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission-based investment products.
Well, you must earn commissions on trades.
Nope, never at Fisher. We're a fiduciary obligated to act in our client's best interest. It's the highest standard of care for a financial advisor.
How do you know what's in their best interest?
We get to know our clients and then tailor a portfolio based on their goals and needs.
But you probably sneak in some hidden and layered fees.
No, we have one transparent management fee, structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, you really do look out for your clients.
That's because our top priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. It might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments and securities involve the risk of loss.
All right, Reinhold Electric's motto is we do it all, and this is going to prove it to you. They will come out and they'll install kitchen lighting or bedroom lighting or new ceiling fan. They do those small jobs, but they do huge jobs, commercial, industrial, even storm response. With Hurricane Ian wreaking havoc in Florida and up the East Coast, Reinhold electricians were on their way while the storm was happening, and they'll stay until people get their electricity needs taken care of. Reinhold Electric works all over our metro area and beyond. They're, of course, in St. Louis, St. Charles, Lake Ozarks, and southwestern Illinois. There's a lot of people realizing, hey, we've got a reliable electrician even at the Lake of the Ozarks. They do car chargers. You need one of those. Backup generators, Reinhold Electric is who does that for you. Find them online at reinholdelectric.com. That's REIN holdelectric.com, or call them anytime, 24 hours a day, 314-631-1158. Small jobs, big jobs, Reinhold Electric does it all. Tell them Bo sent you to Reinhold Electric.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444.
Who is this guy?
Kevin Wheeler
With exaggerated mouth and tongue movements.
on the show.
What is it? What's happened?
What's going on? What do you know?
What just happened?
What happened?
I need to know.
Trending now on the show.
All right, Trending is sponsored by Old Town Donuts in Florissant and Connellville. The number one trend in St. Louis at the moment, well, at least today. I mean, we know that the shooting from Monday has been trending ever since for a lot of reasons. And by the way, we have a press conference on that coming up, I believe, from police headquarters coming up at 11:15-ish.
Yes.
So when we get to that, we will obviously be carrying that live to see what information is going to be passed around. But also trending in town, we mentioned this earlier. We'll talk more about it later. But Adam Wainwright coming back for 2023. Derek Gould broke that news earlier. John Mozeliak will be talking over at Busch Stadium around 11:30 today. And then Matt Pauley will join us sometime around 12:30 once all of that's wrapped up. So good news to have Wainwright back. Team's going to need starting pitching. He had another good year. And we heard the explanation. We got into it. I won't go too detailed, but he gave us the explanation for what was going wrong with him in the month of September. Basically, mechanics got out of whack, and that cost him the ability to generate arm speed. So
maybe he can get his mechanics back in whack.
Oh, I think it will be. Yeah.
Hope so.
No other trending?
trending.
Quintana is actually trending right now, too.
You're Romano?
Yeah, Miramano is trending. Well, because people are talking about now that Wainwright's back, does that mean that he is definitely out? Or does it mean they're going to bring him back as well? Because, look, they're going to need pitching. I don't think there's any question about that. You want to solidify that rotation as best as you can. So,
But wasn't some of the talk that they couldn't
yeah,
bring
that was the I guess the conventional thought was if Wainwright's back, then Quintana probably not. But
I
that's
wouldn't
not
make it-
necessarily true.
I wouldn't make it that absolute. I mean, the candidates that you have, Jack Flaherty, you have Miles Michaelis back, Jordan Montgomery's back, Adam Wainwright is back, Dakota Hudson is there, Matthew Libertor. You have a lot of options, but that doesn't mean that you're ruling out Quintana because you could trade one of those other guys.
Yeah.
Somebody could get hurt. We see it every year. So I wouldn't rule. I wouldn't say there's an absolute.
There's a lot in the they've got a lot of bodies in the rotation, but you don't have a ton of, we know exactly how good they're going to be guys, and I think that's what you're looking for, is to eliminate as much uncertainty as possible. You could just go throughout the season and keep cycling in and out starters and see what happens, and maybe something, you'll find something great, but I would hope they'd like to go into the season with a little more certainty.
Guys, it's National Pumpkin Day.
It is?
And this is a big deal. Yes, because if you don't have your pumpkins yet, make sure you get your pumpkins. You carve your pumpkins, because on November 1st, we start listening to Christmas music.
Oh, that's right. November 1st is Christmas
And so,
time. That's right.
if you're
Good point.
someone who's not comfortable with
Good point.
with Christmas music and pumpkins, which you should be, that's what Thanksgiving is.
Yep.
Just be aware of that. But it is National Pumpkin Day, so maybe go pumpkin picking and pumpkin carving. And
Also,
Schlafly tweeted out.
I picked up something very useful from Total Information AM last week.
Okay.
I think it was last week. In order to keep your pumpkin, your jack-o'-lantern, from rotting or from the critters eating it, you're supposed to cover it in olive oil.
Really?
Wouldn't that make it more tasty?
I don't
I
know.
would want to eat it.
It's good for it keeps away the bacteria.
Oh, okay. If you're the squirrels that we're eating, because I heard that segment too.
Yeah.
The squirrels are eating it. The squirrels are not only getting a little bit more flavor, but they're also not getting the bacteria either.
And they're getting their amino acids, right?
Well, there are,
amino
I don't know
acids?
if you know this, but there are antibacterial properties in olive oil.
Yeah.
It's cold pressed stuff. So, and they're talking about I don't know, you call it the wounds of the
Ew.
jack-o'-lantern, not the skin. You don't have to cover the skin with it, but like the open part.
But don't call those wounds. That's,
Well, what do you call
That's
them?
what Debbie called it.
Ugh.
Does she call it a wound?
Yeah.
Eh.
Okay.
Just the cutout part.
Something
That's what
like
I would
that.
call it.
Okay.
And there was
Also,
something else that besides olive oil. What was it?
I don't remember.
There was
Lemon? Was it lemon?
No.
Gasoline.
Because that's what
Was
you
it
do on
gasoline?
That's what you do on apples, right? If you cut them up, if you put a
Yeah.
little lemon juice in there, they won't turn brown.
And guacamole.
Really?
Yeah.
So
on the
cover your
top.
pumpkin in guacamole.
All right.
And also,
No, that's not what
No,
they said.
Amy.
I just
No.
want to do a shout out to my friend Luke, whose son has lost quite a few teeth, right? He's at that age where he's losing teeth. You put him under the pillow for the tooth
Should we
fairy.
start a GoFundMe?
Well, no, but here's what they
He
did, which
doesn't
I
need it. He's getting rich now.
Oh, yeah,
what I
that's
Have you
right.
seen what those teeth are going for? Tooth fairies must have a good profit margin.
Used to be a quarter.
what's
Oh,
A
brilliant
nickel.
Oh, it's dollars.
is he had his son smile and he traced the smile on the jack-o'-lantern. So
That's
the
cool.
jack-o'-lantern
That's adorable.
matches the kid's smile. I think that's a great idea. If you are a parent of young kids who are losing teeth, a little specific, but it does make a great jack-o'-lantern to have the exact same smile. That's it.
That's good
That's
news.
my
Good times.
pumpkin. That's my pumpkin news.
Nice.
So what are you supposed to slather
I don't know.
your
There was
pumpkin in?
there was something other than olive oil. I'll have to ask the
I also
newsroom.
heard you're not supposed to cut the top. You're supposed to cut it from a different place.
Oh,
Yeah.
I never heard that.
Or you can just not do that.
Well, but you want to have fun, Kevin.
Yeah. Don't you like fun?
That's fun.
Don't you like America?
Pumpkin carving?
Work.
Wow.
That's work.
I mean, that's fun.
It's work.
Work
paint-
is
just
are,
paint
so.
it.
Are you saying you don't have fun at this work?
Just paint. No, I like this work. I don't like that work. I don't like physical labor. I've done enough of that in my life. I don't want to do any more of
It's
that.
pumpkin
All right,
carving.
hey, quick
It's not-
reminder.
It's not a coal
Quick
mining.
reminder, we got a press conference coming up at 11:15 that we will carry live. When we come back, Dr. Maya Moody is going to join us from the Missouri chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. We're going to talk about tips for parents following tragic events like we had on Monday.
Hi, this is Ken.
And Lori Heisey of Heisey Advisory Group. We're dedicated to helping individuals and families work toward their financial goals.
Join us Sundays at 9:30 a.m. for Your Retirement Highway.
Investment advisory services by individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Hey, Ed Brock, everybody. If you love Halloween like I do yourself a favor and visit Johnny Brock's Dungeon. Why shop those tiny pop-up shops when you can shop 30,000 square feet of locally owned Halloween fun? We're open all year at I-44 in Jefferson on the edge of Soulard. Johnny Brock's Dungeon, a St. Louis must-see.
Gas Appliance Service and the Fireplace and Grill Center have a huge selection of gas logs in stock to make your home warm and inviting. Don't get caught in the cold. Shop now for great prices, selection, and schedule your expert installation before long lead times of the holiday rush. See the beautiful burning displays at Gas Appliance Service near Westport or the Fireplace and Grill Center, a quarter-mile east of 141 on the south side of Manchester Road. Hurry while supplies last. Gas Appliance Service and the Fireplace and Grill Center.
It's simple math. Rising prices equals tighter family budgets. I'm Katie Stewart. I'm a mom and a math teacher. In Springfield, I cut grocery taxes, froze gas taxes, and delivered income tax credits for working families. I helped pass measures to crack down on price gouging by drug companies to lower healthcare costs. I'm investing in vocational training to train workers for high-paying jobs like welders and carpenters that pay $35 or more an hour. I'm Katie Stewart. My opponent, Jennifer Cordy, has said victims of rape who choose to have an abortion will regret it later. Cordy is for a total ban on choice in Illinois. I'll protect a woman's right to choose, no matter what happens in Washington. It's why Planned Parenthood supports me. I'm Katie Stewart, candidate for state representative. I'm not a politician. I follow numbers, and our community is always first. Paid for by Friends for Katie Stewart.
KMOX, KECK HD2, K254CR, St. Louis.
The legendary voice of St. Louis, KMOX. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Would you like a cleaning product that can be used in the garage, the laundry, and the kitchen, and save space in your cabinet? Hi, I'm Bruce Fabrizio, inventor of Simple Green. To learn more, visit us at simplegreen.com.
This is Corey with Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling. Shopping around for new HVAC systems is something nobody ever wants on their to-do list. So let's help make things easier with free estimates on new equipment, up to $2,150 on Carrier Cool Cash rebates, and 0% financing for up to 72 months. With over 50 years of award-winning service, you can trust Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling with your new system install. For details and to get in your comfort zone, contact Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling at aircomfortservice.com. That's aircomfortservice.com.
Mid-America's most trusted source for news. KMOX.
At 11 o'clock, we have a clear sky. It is 50 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Stuart McMillan. Here's what's happening. Another day, another news conference at St. Louis Police Headquarters this morning following Monday's deadly shooting at a South St. Louis high school.
We hope to find out more about the investigation into the shooting, how the shooter got in, how he acquired the weapon, things like that. This is also going to be somewhat of a preventative announcement. Mayor Tashara Jones, Congresswoman Bush, and others saying they're going to announce an ongoing collaborative effort to keep our community safe. At police headquarters, Kevin Killeen, KMOX News.
And that news conference starting in less than 15 minutes. We'll air that live on KMOX. Monday's school shooting has already prompted policy discussions on the campaign trails. CBS Astrid Martinez reports.
This year, there have been 40 school shootings, a record, according to Education Week, which has been tracking such incidents since 2018. This latest tragedy has reignited the contentious national discourse over gun control. Heading into midterms, it's a heated topic featured in virtually every political debate. Officials say the school in South St. Louis was locked, with security guards near each door. Police won't say how the gunmen still managed to get in, insisting they don't want to make it easy for potential copycats.
Speaking of copycats,
we see this every single time there is a school shooting, unfortunately.
After Monday's shooting, the FBI and police have been on high alert for threats. Special agent in charge in St. Louis, Jay Greenberg.
It's a federal crime. It's also, in most places, a state and local crime. So we will find everybody who makes a hoax threat.
Greenberg says because of this, most schools have increased security right now. Missouri Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft says that state law has changed since the last election and voting absentee has gotten easier.
What we have this year for the first time is there's a 2-week period. We're in it now where anyone who wants, you don't have to have an excuse. You can just say, I want to vote now. You can go vote in person. Absentee at the election authority for the 2 weeks before the election. You will need to have your government-issued photo ID to do that.
Those government-issued IDs, driver's licenses, passports will be required at the polls November 8th. Arizona advocacy groups have asked a judge for a temporary restraining order against Clean Elections USA, accusing the far-right organization of recruiting vigilantes, some armed and wearing tactical gear, to monitor drop boxes as a part of an illegal voter intimidation campaign. One of the two lawsuits in the case has a hearing set for this afternoon.
Voters are dropping off their ballots at ballot collection sites, and they are being filmed. They're being followed and harassed by vigilante groups who took photos of license plate numbers. On Friday in Mesa, Arizona, 2 armed individuals wearing tactical gear showed up at a polling site.
That's CBS's Musaddiq Badar. He says baseless fraud claims by former President Trump fueled a GOP-led review of the vote count in the state following the 2020 election, which confirmed Joe Biden's victory there. Election deniers are currently running for key posts in state midterm elections. From the First Bank and Trust business desk, Adidas has ended its partnership with the rapper formerly known as Kanye West over his offensive anti-Semitic remarks. And the county council passed ARPA bills until the money ran out.
The St. Louis County Council began the night with $66 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding, then started passing and failing bills to spend it. $18 million going to sewage improvements in South County, as proposed by Councilman Ernie Trachis.
This particular area of South County has been neglected for far too long. These funds are desperately needed.
Councilman Tim Fitch got nearly $24 million for the county police, which he used to be the chief.
The state is going to give us a similar amount of money to match for these police department projects for the county police department.
Funding was approved to address North County food insecurity, tearing down dilapidated properties, child care services. Councilman Mark Harder proposed funding improvements to Hillsborough Road to make it safe. However,
okay, so we're out of money. This is my only bill.
And numerous other worthy causes and projects were not funded either, after the council spent much of the past year deciding how to use this federal windfall. Sean Michael Lyle, KMOX News.
Repeating our top story this morning, there will be a press conference coming up in about 10 minutes or so. We'll have that live on KMOX. It's from St. Louis Police Headquarters. It's following Monday's deadly shooting at the South St. Louis High Schools. We'll have more from Kevin Killeen, who's at the scene, coming up soon. Right now, let's get a check of the roadway. Stalled vehicle 364 eastbound just before 94 eastbound. The right shoulder affected there because of that stalled vehicle. And stalled vehicle 70 eastbound past Cypress Road. The left shoulder is having an issue there as well. Weather for today, a high of 60, low of 41 for tonight. Tomorrow, high of 63, clouds and sunshine, 66 Friday, and a little bit warmer for Saturday, high of 68. Right now, 52 right now in St. Peter's and Florissant, 50 and 50 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Stuart McMillan, KMOX News.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than four? 314-441-4444.
It's 11:06 on the show. Just a reminder that coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to be taking you out to a press conference that's being held at police headquarters. The police, FBI, Mayor Jones, Congresswoman Bush, a lot of others are going to be speaking today. We're going to be getting an update, obviously, on the shooting that took place on Monday at CVPA. Now, we're also following up on that with our next guest. Dr. Maya Moody is with us, board-certified pediatrician and the president of the Missouri chapter of American Academy of Pediatrics. Maya, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate this, and it's a topic that we've asked a few others about. We started kind of getting into this yesterday, but certainly important to continue to follow up on how parents, all parents moving forward, address issues like these with their kids. So where do we start these conversations, even with kids who say they don't want to talk about it?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And, really the best place to start is to ask what the child knows or what the child has heard and have a unifying kind of starting place for the conversation with the child or youth.
And with each child, I imagine there are some general guidelines about what's appropriate for a certain age, but I imagine so much of that conversation is contingent on the parent knowing what the child can handle or is emotionally capable of handling at that time.
Exactly. You certainly want to consider, the social emotional developmental level of the child. Really, the first thing for all age levels is to ensure safety, to tell the child that they are safe and that, this school shooting is a little different because it is in our hometown. It's not like we can say, oh, that's a far away place like in Texas. This one hit really close to home for a lot of our kids and families.
What about if your child isn't verbalizing fear, but you're thinking, maybe, my son or daughter absorbed this and just doesn't know how to express that to me? What are some signs that a parent should look for?
Yeah, absolutely. So signs of stress can really come out in physical ways in kids. So if they're having any sort of sleep problems, difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, any sort of physical complaints like having a headache or eating more or less than usual, complaining of stomach aches, changes in behavior. So some behavior regression, or an 8-year-old is, starting to want to cuddle more or have a favorite object, those sorts of things. Just kind of acting more immature. Also being, seeming impatient or irritable, being demanding or clingy. Those are all things that for those school age kids that you really want to keep an eye out. And then teens, they're kind of a different age range in the sense that it really is going to depend on the kid or the youth, but making sure that they, that you're available to talk to them, and making sure that they have a good peer support network, and that they have resources available to them, because they may not want to talk directly to someone, but may feel more comfortable talking or even texting to one of the community helplines.
So what is a first step then if you see any of these signs, or if you have a child who insists they're fine, but you can see that maybe they are not quite fine? I think a parent would want to know, okay, there are all these different things that I need to do. What's the very first thing to do?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to approach the child in a very neutral, calm fashion, and ask open-ended questions. So I can see that something may be bothering you. Can you tell me more about that? Or, I've noticed these changes. Can you tell me what maybe you're thinking or you're feeling? And leave it very open-ended so that it's not just a yes, no kind of grumble answer. And then obviously, seeking out professional help if it gets to the point where you're concerned. Certainly our Missouri pediatricians are ready to have these conversations with our families, and also looking out, for those mental health professionals as well.
I've brought this up on the show before because it was such a big part of my childhood, but I was young when the tennis player Monica Seles was stabbed on the court. And it seems really random, but I played tennis with my grandparents. That was something I did. And I was young enough that when I saw that on the news, I felt unsafe. I thought, well, if she was hurt playing tennis, then I could be hurt playing tennis. And it was hard for me to get that sense of safety back. I was very nervous. How do we talk honestly about what's happened at the schools with our kids, but convey that sense of safety? Because, when we're young, it's so easy to have no perspective. It feels like all the boundaries are gone and anything could happen at any time.
Absolutely. I think, with this incident happening in our hometown, I think a lot more of our youth and children are having those experiences. And it can be traumatic for the community, even if, not directly involved. I think that one thing that you did bring up is important, and that's like news and media exposure and making sure that kids aren't seeing some of those more kind of violent or graphic images. Even for your teens, you may want to record or preview some of the stories that are being either told or visually, and including across, digital media as well. But I think reassuring that safety, making sure that, you're calm so the child stays calm, that can regulate those emotions together. And it's certainly, something that we will have to think about on a community level to ensure that safety and to really process the trauma of this event.
I know that we're talking about seeking help, and obviously parents have to help kids along with that. If parents are looking for specific help with their child, is it the place to start talking to their pediatrician, talking to the doctor that cares for their child?
Yeah, I would. I mean, we really love seeing these kids. We see them from babies until their teens or even their early 20s off to college. So, using that relationship and that rapport that you have established with your primary care provider can be sometimes, they'll tell us things as, pediatricians or physicians that they may not want to talk to parents about, or we can pick up on some of those nuances of language or behavior, and really help the family and the kiddo process.
You talked a moment ago about limiting technology exposure to media. What do you do if you're a parent that may not be quite as savvy technologically as your son or daughter is? Because kids, a lot of them are very good with that stuff for themselves.
Exactly. So there is a online resource that we like. It's the healthychildren.org. It is the American Academy of Pediatrics parent-facing website with lots of information about, digital media. There's also parental controls and those sorts of things. But the other thing is just to have an open, honest conversation with your, young teen or teen and see kind of what they have seen or what they feel comfortable about. And sometimes having even just a commercial pass during a baseball or hockey game can be enough exposure for a kid to feel unsafe or frightened.
Dr. Moody, we really appreciate the information. I know it's important for everybody to understand their own child and follow up with experts where they need help. Thank you for providing the guideline. And I want to remind everybody, healthychildren.org is a great place to get started. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. That's Dr. Maya Moody. She is a pediatrician and the president of the Missouri chapter of American Academy of Pediatrics. And again, it's healthychildren.org. I know it's tough because, the older the kid gets, the more they can assert their own will. Right?
Yeah.
It's very difficult. I obviously have a daughter who's an adult now, but it wasn't always that. It took a while to get there. And there were times where you could tell something's wrong, something's bothering them, or in my case, my daughter. And you're not always going to get the answers. You're not always going to get that direct link to what is absolutely happening at the moment. So I guess just keep, I don't want to say keep pushing. That's not necessarily the right term, but keep on prodding, keep on probing, keep on being subtle about it. It's a little tougher when it's very confrontational because they're going to push back.
And that's the difficulty because you also want to let them breathe.
Right. It's hard.
So how do you find that balance?
You know, and I'll just add this too. It's interesting because you don't know what will hit each child differently. One of my friends, her daughter was very young when Robin Williams took his own life. And she saw that on the magazines at the grocery stores. And she was young enough that she didn't really understand, oh, well, why would someone do that? What if that's something that I do? And they had to talk through that because it was something that was a bit beyond her emotional maturity level, but she absorbed it and it bothered her. So you might be, every child is different on what bothers them, what sticks with them.
I thought when we had Dr. Mozenter on yesterday from WashU and Barnes Jewish, I thought she made a good point. In that, you know your kid and you can tell if something's off. So trust your instincts.
Yeah.
And and what she said was make sure your assumption is that things are not okay. Right.
Right.
Because they're probably not. It may not be a critical issue for each kid. There's a wide spectrum of ways that it impacts children. Every one of them is going to be different, but you know your kid. And if you can tell something is wrong, well, then obviously continue to pursue help, continue to pursue those conversations as you can. All right, we're getting ready for a press conference that's going to be happening at police headquarters here in just a couple of minutes. St. Louis Metropolitan Police are holding this along with the FBI, Mayor Jones, Congresswoman Bush, Jay Greenberg, who was with us yesterday from the FBI, is going to be there as well. So they're going to give us an update on I guess new information, but also on how these different groups, these different agencies are working together to help people stay safe. I know when we talked to Jay yesterday, they have to follow up on dozens and dozens and dozens of reports of other potential threats in the aftermath of these, and they've sorted through a lot of that here the last couple of days.
And most of them, really all of them, probably hoaxes, but it's manpower that has to go to these things and investigate them just to make absolutely sure. And they do investigate every one of them.
Mm-hmm. And again, not always intended as hoaxes, right? That's some of them be like, I might be thinking about it, but
Sure.
you get caught up and obviously you cut that off at the pass, which is the goal. But it's tough because, there's already a lot going on, especially with, the elections coming up. In fact, we're going to play a little bit from Jay Greenberg later on. He was on Total Information AM this morning talking completely different subject, talking about election security. So there are a lot of things that these agencies are dealing with. And, when they want to make sure that you're not trying to, we don't want to overload them with things that don't matter. But of course, you don't have any choice. If you're hearing something that sounds potentially threatening, you have to get to it. All right, coming up in a couple of minutes, we're going to go to the press conference at police headquarters. We'll do that in just a few here on KMOX.
Well, if you are a business owner and you have 5 or more employees and you've managed to survive the past couple of years, which have been very bumpy to say the least, with COVID shutdowns and restrictions, inflation, supply chain issues, you might be thinking, I could use a little bit of a break and anything could help. Well, you may be eligible for a tax rebate. That's right. If your business has 5 or more employees and you managed to survive the COVID years, you could be eligible to receive a payroll tax rebate of up to $26,000 per employees. Go to getrefunds.com. Getrefunds.com, because businesses of all types can qualify. Even if you took PPP, even if you're a nonprofit, or even if you saw an increase in sales, you might be eligible. To find out if your business qualifies, just go to getrefunds.com, click on Qualify Me, and answer a few questions. The team of tax attorneys they've put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program and have already returned $1 billion to businesses, and they can help you too. Go to getrefunds.com.
Tom Ackerman sees clearly thanks to Doctors Birdie and Mahaltra. You can too. Go to yourEyeDoc.com today or call 314-966-5000.
The St. Louis Symphony Orchestra is checking in to the Bates Motel as Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho comes to the big screen at Powell Hall for an evening of spine-tingling and hair-raising terror. From the shrieking strings and the slashing chords, the SLSO performs Bernard Herrmann's suspenseful score live and intensifies this black and white psychological thriller. Join in on our costume contest or sip on a Halloween-themed cocktail before the concert on October 30th. Tickets at slso.org.
Men, if you're struggling with erectile dysfunction or PE and frustrated taking pills that don't work, Paramount Men's Medical Center offers breakthrough medical treatments that effectively treat your problem. 98% of patients experience immediate results during their first office visit. And for a limited time, your initial consultation and first treatment are completely free. Listen to a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Brown. The physicians at Paramount Men's Medical Center offer the most advanced treatments that eliminate ED and PE. Now men are lasting 30, 60, 90 minutes or longer, regardless of age or medical history.
Guys, to eliminate your frustration in the bedroom, call Paramount Men's Medical Center now to take advantage of this exclusive limited-time offer. Your initial consultation and first treatment are totally free, and you'll see instant results right in the office. Call now, 314-720-8081. 314-720-8081. That's 314-720-8081.
Just recently, I had a customer call me. His mom was told that her furnace was compromised. Compromised, remember that. And so he called another company for a second opinion, and then he went further and he called me for a third opinion. I have to say, I give kudos and credit to that second company that came out there. They did a thorough diagnostic, which took an hour and 20 minutes, not 10 minutes. And they found the furnace was in perfect operating order per the manufacturer's specifications and guidelines. It's in your best interest to call and get a second opinion. If you want to call me for second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, it's one easy number, Missouri and Illinois. It's 314-293-2600. It's Bart Inman, 314-293-2600, or Bart with a B, Inman with an I.com.
Spark Co-working St. Louis is a new collaborative workspace located within the PwC Pennant Building in Ballpark Village. The Spark Co-working community supports the thriving St. Louis entrepreneurial ecosystem, where you can live, work, and watch the Cardinals play all within one district. The all-inclusive workspace includes furnished month-to-month offices and suites with stadiums, city, and arch views, concierge mail service, nitro cold brew coffee on tap, and so much more. Call 314-278-5297 or visit spark-stl.com.
Serving St. Louis for over 96 years. KMOX.
All right, in a few minutes, we'll be taking you live to police headquarters. The police department, FBI, Mayor Jones, Congresswoman Bush, they're all there. They're going to be conducting a press conference here in a few minutes. And the press release in advance says they're going to be talking about collaborative efforts to keep communities safe. This is, of course, a continuing part of the response of the shooting on Monday. And, you know, when we'll be sending that over to police headquarters here once they get started in a couple of minutes. But certainly still a lot to sort through. I know we just talked to Dr. Moody, and we'll continue to follow up on all of these things. The who, what, where, when, and why, all of the investigation into those types of things seems to have come to an end. It doesn't mean, though, they're not still exploring the how, because the how is where you're going to learn about maybe future steps to take that could further make it difficult. And Ron, you've said this a number of times about different topics, but the idea applies that you may not be able to solve everything completely, but better is still better. Improvement is still better.
Yeah. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Right.
And
It's one of my favorite platitudes.
You're such a
that's one of the first ones you've used.
Yeah, I don't use a ton, but that's one I like.
Yeah. So we'll learn more about that, and we'll learn more about the guns, the ammunition, how and all that was purchased.
Right. Right. We're still. That's like that is the right now. Is that the main thing for you guys? Not just how it went down. We have an idea about that, and there may be some things to learn from where he went first, where that kind of thing. But you think you're right, Amy, that it's about how the gun was purchased, and then part of that is where and from whom, and then how does somebody
you have to know
in
those,
that spot get all that ammo?
Yeah, you have to know those things if you're going to have serious conversations about gun laws, red flag laws, what's there, what was skirted, where's a loophole, where was something not enforced. Again, all of those details yet to come out. Did we want to talk about something that the United States is there's some consensus while we're waiting for the press conference to start?
Oh,
wait, we
yeah,
mostly agree on something?
I don't know what that could be.
Yeah. Well, I know we talk a lot about division, but as it turns out, the U.S. is united in its support for Ukraine. So majorities support U.S. economic and diplomatic sanctions against Russia. That's 80% of Americans. 76% of Americans are for accepting Ukrainian refugees into the United States. 72% of Americans agree that we should provide additional arms and military supplies to the Ukrainian government. And 71% of Americans believe we should continue giving economic assistance to Ukraine. So we do have a lot of consensus. I know that some of the bigger talking points from the political pundits or talking heads has been a bit divisive. On the Fox News Republican side, we have Tucker Carlson, but there was even a contingent of more left-leaning Democrats who signed a letter and sent it. They were going to send it to the Biden administration, asking.
They walked it back, thankfully,
they
because that's absurd. And I understand
think
some of
that
the
shows, though. I think it shows there's
Yeah.
consensus on left and right.
I mean, some of the points they made, I think I get, but you cannot appease this man in any way possible.
No.
Like, I know that everybody wants the war to stop.
Yeah.
We all want it to go away. There's one person who can make it go away, and it's the guy who started it.
Did you see the Finnish prime minister, her response when she was asked by media, how does this end? And they're like, well, how do we bring this to an end? How does this end? And she goes, it ends with Russia leaving Ukraine. That's how this comes to an end. And it was just concise and to the point. And again, we heard about the letter. We hear the Tucker Carlson points. But when push comes to shove, most Americans are united on this front.
All you have to do is read one book, and you can realize that appeasement does not work.
Yeah.
Because if you give a dictator, which is what Vladimir Putin is, if you give him an inch, he's going to say, well, I want 5 inches. All right, well, we'll give you that 5. Just don't bother any more people. He'll say, great, I want a foot now. Like, he will just keep going and going until you stop him.
And if you were wondering where those numbers came from, it was the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. They completed the poll. They included more than 3,000 U.S. adults across all 50 states. They had a margin of sampling error of just 1.8 percentage points. And again, the vast majority of Americans support Ukraine.
I would also follow up. It doesn't seem like it is, but I feel like it's still a lot of people that aren't in agreement with the group. I feel like that's a bigger percentage than it should be.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying anything is 100%, but it's not shocking because I
Should be like
understand it should be 90%.
90%, yes.
Be, right. It should be it should be closer to 100. But if you're not ideologically inclined to say that what they're doing is clearly diametrically opposed to what we want to do and what we are. I mean, they are working against us.
Now,
Russia is, right? I mean, they're not alone. Others are too. And in fact, something that Jay Greenberg talked about earlier today is that's the same thing that's happening with China and Iran. There are a lot of others that are working. Well, if they're working against us, we probably shouldn't try to identify with them.
Exactly. They would love for us to fall apart. All of them.
All right, so we're still waiting for the press conference to get started. We're going to head towards the news. And once that press conference gets started at police headquarters, we'll take it to you live here on KMOX.
Weeknights at 6. It's the Meyer Jensen Sports Open Line.
Welcome into the program. My name is Matt Pauley.
Matt gets you inside the world of sports. Cardinals, Chiefs, Pelicans. You'll get it all and much more.
We have an exclusive podcast that's Cardinals related called Cardscast.
Plus great guests, insight, and conversations with you.
If you want to join us, you can do so by calling or texting
the Meyer Jensen Sports Open Line on America's Sports Voice, KMOX.
I'm Tim Fitch, former chief of the St. Louis County Police Department. At a time when violent crime threatens our kids and our communities, we need tough leaders who will stand against criminals and with our men and women in law enforcement. That's why I support Dennis Hancock for St. Louis County Council. Dennis Hancock is endorsed by the St. Louis County Fraternal Order of Police. His opponent? She's backed by groups that want to defund the police. As the mayor of Fenton, Dennis Hancock didn't make excuses for criminals, he locked them up. Dennis proudly worked with law enforcement to keep our streets and our families safe. And that's exactly what he'll do on the St. Louis County Council. I hope you'll join me in supporting Dennis Hancock this November.
Dennis Hancock for St. Louis County Council. Reform St. Louis County Now is responsible for the content of this advertising. Paid for by Reform St. Louis County Now, firesampage.com, and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
At 11:30, I'm Stuart McMillan, KMOX News. Currently at 56 degrees downtown of the Arch. Still standing by for a press conference at St. Louis Police Headquarters this morning following Monday's deadly shooting in a South St. Louis high school. Kevin Killeen is there. We'll bring you that press conference as soon as it gets started. A jury has convicted a Wisconsin man of killing 6 people when he drove his SUV into a Christmas parade last year. Darrell Brooks, who defended himself in the trial, just been found guilty of 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. He drove into that parade in Waukesha last November after fleeing a domestic disturbance incident with an ex-girlfriend. Just in from Festus, a boil order advisory has been canceled. They had a water main break on Saturday, and boil order was in effect until just minutes ago. It's been canceled. And Cardinals fans, get ready to see number 50. He's going to be on the mound again this year. We now go to a press conference at St. Louis Police Headquarters.
Health issues. Finally, I'd like to thank, the members of the community, the students. I don't know if you've had teenagers or not, but they don't always listen. But on Monday, they sure did. They did what their teachers instructed them to do. They did what the officers instructed them to do, despite the fact that you could see that many of them were traumatized. You could see it in their faces and you could read it in their eyes. But they did whatever was asked of them, and I'm deeply appreciative of the students and staff and the heroism that they exhibited on Monday. But there's also some businesses in the area that really stepped up, notably Schnucks. It's not every day where you've got a grocery store operating and 500 or 600 kids come running up onto your parking lot looking for safety, and another 60 or 80 adults who are associated with them. But they were very gracious. They hosted the kids. They facilitated the movement of dozens of buses that moved those kids to a separate location. After that, our command post set up on that lot. Schnucks was very gracious. They provided food and water. I was told one of the employees actually carried a couple cases from the Schnucks location all the way down to the school where our officers were at. And many of our officers were in need of water because when they show up at a scene like this, they're not taking time to find a bottle of water to have with them at their side. So, I appreciate what Schnucks did for us. Also, the Salvation Army showed up to provide food and water for the first responders. The Shamrock Bottling Company was very supportive as well for our command posts and allowed our officers to use their facilities. And lastly, Interface Construction. As I was going up the arsenal to the scene, I could hear officers on the radio saying, we need breaching tools. We can't get into some of these rooms. And sure enough, here on my right, there's a construction site with the workers standing there, helmets on and vests on. And I just asked them, hey, do you guys have any tools we can use to break into doors? And they, excuse me. And several workers gathered up an armful of tools and gave them to our officers. So something as simple and mundane as some tools can mean the difference between the life and death of a child or a parent inside that building. So it may not seem like a lot, but it was a powerful gesture. So I appreciate those workers who provided us with those critical tools needed at that time. But so I really appreciate the efforts of the community who worked closely with us and supported us during that difficult day. I'd like to introduce now the special agent in charge of the St. Louis Field Office of the FBI, Mr. Jay Greenberg.
Thank you, Chief. So I want to talk very quickly about the increase that we've seen in hoax threats for additional or follow-on school shootings. We have seen this, unfortunately, nationwide since Columbine happened in 1999, that after a school shooting, we do see a rise in hoax threats in an area where we've had a school shooting. That has happened here. Really want to talk about this from a wellness perspective. However, these hoax threats that come from the area are very easy to investigate, and we generally find the people very quickly who have made the hoax threats. Because of the volume, however, in the threats that we have seen over the last several days, your students who are in school across the metro region are seeing an increase in police presence in each one of their schools. The volume has been so great that we're not able to get out and identify and make contact with every single person who has made a hoax threat at this time. So the easiest way for us to address that as a law enforcement group across the metro area is simply for all the local police departments to assign armed resources to be in the school. So as parents, you should be aware that means that as your children are trying to process what has happened here on Monday in the school shooting, they are also seeing an increased armed presence every day in their school, regardless where they are across the metro region, which is leading to additional trauma for those students. We also had a school go on lockdown due to one of the threats on Tuesday. Again, that's more trauma for our kids. So we want to make sure that parents are aware that these are hoax threats. We do not believe there are any credible threats ongoing in the area that we are currently tracking. There is an increase in armed law enforcement in schools across the metro area, which is straining already strained police resources. So if you have a child who has a smartphone and they are hearing about a hoax threat or contemplating a hoax threat, as parents, we're asking you, make contact with your children, make sure they know that is illegal. It is a crime. We will investigate it. We will be coming to visit you at home through some level of law enforcement to run those threats to ground. But it is increasing the trauma that all of our students and teachers are experiencing. And so we ask for everybody's help here to make sure that we get these hoax threats ramped down so that law enforcement can do the job we need to, and we can continue to get the services out to all the victims of this and to the broader community. So thank you very much. And now I'll hand it off to Mayor Jones.
Thank you. The past 2 days have been a whirlwind for all of us. And as I've heard from students and community members and witnessed firsthand the devastating ripple effect this has had on our communities, I've grown from sad to angry. I'm angry because in the hours that followed this incident, several politicians who will remain nameless decided to use the pain of our community to score points or to energize their base. We should be using this as a time to wrap our arms around our children, our babies, who by no fault of their own went to school Monday morning to learn and will be traumatized for the rest of their lives. I'm angry because as we watch mass shootings sweep across the country, Uvalde, Buffalo, Highland Park, it seemed like only a matter of time to parents before it hit closer to home. And tragically, that happened Monday. That's what happens when the people with the power to take action to get guns off our streets and protect our children refuse to do so. I'm angry because as I have remained laser focused to transform public safety in this region, making St. Louis a safer place for families, including my son, people are using St. Louis as a political talking point. The time for thoughts and prayers are over. It's time for action. But the actions of the Missouri legislature in recent years have made gun violence far more likely to occur in our city and state. Whether it's dismantling the permitting process, passing a nullification law that makes it harder for local law enforcement to do its job, or by failing to take action to empower loved ones to temporarily remove firearms from a person in crisis at risk of harming themselves or others. And now, their inaction in the face of senseless violence is leaving communities across our region feeling powerless. As co-chair of Mayors Against Illegal Guns, I'm working with fellow mayors across the country to try and hold gun manufacturers accountable. If we can regulate a product as dangerous as tobacco, we can regulate weapons of war. If you have to register your car, you should have to do the same for a weapon that can injure and kill. If the state won't act, we need federal action to keep our babies safe. The Bipartisan Safety Act passed earlier this year is a good first step by encouraging states to enforce red flag laws, but it's just a first step, and there's so much more work to do. And it was so encouraging to see so many senators, including our own Senator Roy Blunt, cross the aisle to vote in favor of common sense gun safety laws. We can do it again. I echo the White House's call to renew the assault weapons ban and urge the Senate to take action. No one can watch what happened here in our city this week or anywhere in the country and think that doing nothing is working. In St. Louis this year, more than 100 children have been victims of gun violence. And as a mother, their pain and that of their families breaks my heart. And everyone here today understands how the trauma of gun violence ripples across our communities, our neighborhoods, and our schools. But though I'm angry, I'm also proud of the way that our city has come together to support our students and staff. Every year, St. Louis earns the distinction of being one of the most charitable cities in the country. And witnessing the collaborative efforts that our chief talked about, and the collaborative efforts among city departments and organizational partners, the grassroots efforts from our Congresswoman Cori Bush, and the sheer outpouring of support from community members has given me hope that our city will rise again.
You're looking at a live update on the shooting at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School that happened on Monday. The St. Louis Field Office FBI Special Agent in Charge, Jay Greenberg, warned parents to let their kids know that calling in hoax threats, which they have seen a spike in after school shootings like this, that those hoax threats, they may be hoaxes, but they're illegal.
All right, so the coverage you're hearing there, we've been using our partnership with Fox 2 to have the audio for the press conference, and we just heard from...
Wish they'd let it go. I'd like to hear the rest of it, but whatever. It just... Come on, guys.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure that we get the rest of that later on. Kevin Killeen is there when he comes back in a bit. We'll make sure we get some of those highlights and some of the questions that are going to be asked. We did hear a little bit from Interim Chief Michael Sack. We heard a bit from Jay Greenberg. And, of course, Jay talking about what we got into with him yesterday, which is all of the hoax things and the resources that it takes up. Yeah. And, you know, the fact that I think it's important that, you know, I think it's really important to emphasize what he thought was important to emphasize, which is it's really easy to track down. There's absolutely no reason why anyone would think they're going to be able to do these things and not have a conversation with the FBI.
I think what was, startling, and again, in line with what he told us yesterday, is there are so many hoaxes right now, whether it's a post or a call or whatever it may be floating around, that the FBI even can't get to all of them all at once, right? They're triaging, they're going to as many as possible. That's why there's an increased law enforcement present. It's not that no one's getting to them. The law enforcement is getting there right away, but that is why, kids in schools will be seeing more armed police presence while they're going about school.
All right, so we're going to go back to it. We got a new feed. Back to the press conference at police headquarters.
For children and teens. And we say enough is enough, but we were past enough. Enough was one, and that happened long ago. We are undergoing a gun violence epidemic. It is totally preventable. It is a preventable public health crisis. Republican lawmakers, especially, we need you to step up. We need you to join us in taking action on this gun violence crisis in this country. And if it means stepping away from the dollars you receive, you need to do so. I was glad to see President Biden reiterate his call for a ban on assault weapons yesterday. A ban on assault weapons would save lives. And the truth of the matter is that it may have saved the lives of those who were killed this Monday and protected those who were injured and those who are traumatized. The House passed a ban on assault weapons. We did that back in July, and the Senate needs to act. And like our mayor said, the Bipartisan Safer Communities law that passed earlier this year, it is a good first step, but it's just the tip of the iceberg of what we actually need in this country. My team and I, we are working relentlessly to introduce and advance gun reform policies rooted in public health to protect and address the needs of our community and communities alike. Just last month, Congressman Jamal Bowman, who will be here on tomorrow with us, who is the vice chair of the Committee on Education and Labor, We sent a letter to the Department of Health and Human Services, to the Department of Justice, and to the Department of Education, asking them to conduct a review of gun violence prevention strategies that they are utilizing in schools and establish a comprehensive plan to meet the holistic emotional, health, and safety needs of our nation's students. I introduced the Helping Families Heal Act alongside Leslie McSpadden, who is Michael Brown's mother, to fund mental health resources for families, communities, and students who have been traumatized by violence. I also introduced the People's Response Act, which would adopt a new approach to public safety that understands that true public safety must be rooted in a public health response. Tomorrow, I am hosting a town hall on school safety tomorrow, October 27th at 6 p.m. at St. Louis Community College, Florissant Valley. This town hall is open to the public. It will provide an opportunity for community members to come together and hear from students. We have a panel. Hear from school administration officials, as well as mental health experts, therapists, elected leaders, and more. And those who offer resources, such as many of our community advocates and organizations. And you will have the opportunity to ask questions. I hope to see as many of you there, as many people as possible. Bring your voices. Come out tomorrow so we can talk and begin to heal together as we try to move forward from this tragedy. As a side note, if you are in need of transportation, there will be transportation provided. We're still working on more, but there will be buses provided by People's Health Center starting at 5 p.m. at the Schnucks grocery store on 5055 Arsenal Street. Thank you to Schnucks and thank you to People's Health Center. And there will also be van transit provided by Metro Transit that will be available at the North Hanley Metro Station, which is at 4398 Hanley Road. We are also working on more. So if you are someone who has the ability to be able to transport people, if you are a company and you are willing to do that, please reach out to our office. If you would like transportation, please call our office at 314-955-9980. Overall, bills and actions like these are how we save lives. I'm here to assure you, gun violence prevention has remained and will continue to be at the forefront of my legislative efforts. St. Louis has had enough. We're beyond enough. Together, we will push for the change we need to see to end the crisis of gun violence in our schools. We will not rest until we see a day where there is an end to mass gun violence and gun violence as a whole. And now I will turn it over to our incredible City Health Director, Dr. Madi Davis.
Good morning. Gun violence is a public health crisis. Behavioral health and mental health are not only basic human rights, but fundamental tenets of health and public health. I understand that these last days have been deeply traumatic, not only for me, but for our entire community. It's just so challenging to try to even make sense of why, when such tragedies occur, they do. My entire heart is with the families and friends of the two victims, 15-year-old Alexandria Bell and teacher Jean Kuczka, and everyone, the entire family and community that surrounds, is embedded within, and encompasses Central Visual Performing Arts High School. Yesterday, the Department of Health and Office of Violence Prevention convened a meeting with leadership from the St. Louis Public Schools, St. Louis Metropolitan Department, local and state officials, behavioral health programs, and many more community leaders. Community leaders that have been doing this work within our communities for decades, day in and day out. At that meeting, we debriefed about this tragic event. We shared updates and discussed openly the realities of where we are today as it relates to violence. As a result, we were able to identify tangible goals that will allow us to collaboratively deliver the necessary resources to support victims, families, and our community. If you'll allow me to, I'll walk you through those steps. Number one, to provide an equitable, community-wide response to all the recent gun violence. Because understand that while this tragedy is a tragedy, the day before, there were 8 deaths due to gun violence the day before. And this has created an acute on chronic crisis and trauma for our city. Number 2, we will focus on 2 core areas, including an improvement of both school-based and community-wide behavioral health interventions that are inclusive and data-driven. We have a network of over 35 distinguished behavioral health leaders that have been committed to serving the city for decades that will be meeting daily to collectively develop a set of short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals to serve this, with an action plan for community-based care that is equitable and aims to reduce any disparities in care. Number 4, the Department of Health and Office of Violence Prevention will lead a bi-weekly meeting to create an action plan that will improve long-term school-focused behavioral health interventions. And last but certainly not least, the Department of Health has committed to providing centralized and coordinated communication, education, mapping of data to support these forthcoming initiatives. Establishing any supportive resources or interventions related to mental health is not a solution, but rather are tools for healing from trauma that our community experiences as a result of incidents related to gun violence. Gun violence is a complex public health concern that requires the kind of collaborative effort that we hope to achieve. This meeting yesterday provided an opportunity to reevaluate how gun violence is a public health emergency and how we should not be working in silos. Alone, we can achieve very little, but together we can effectively impact the kind of unprecedented change that is needed. It must be said, and I will say it, that prior to Mayor Jones taking her leadership position for our city, there was no Office for Violence Prevention. And it was through her efforts that I was empowered to open the first Behavioral Health Bureau for the city of St. Louis. Without those 2 distinct implementation strategies, we would not be able to lead and to act in the way that we have today. Lastly, I would like to say to everyone in our community, it's okay to be not okay. I'm not okay. I've been hugging my babies tight every night. I intentionally pray over them when I send them into school because my acute and chronic trauma has me fearful that it will be the call that I get on my cell phone or that my husband gets. So it is okay to not be okay. However, if you or anyone you know needs help, please reach out and talk to someone. You are not alone. Our partner, the BHR hotline, provides confidential counseling to anyone in need and is available 24/7. The number is 314-469-6644. And if that's too much to remember, just dial 988. 988 and help will come your way. Gun violence is a public health crisis. Behavioral and mental health are essential human rights and foundational principles of health and public health. I would now like to turn it over to Halliday Douglas from St. Louis Public Schools.
Thank you. The role of the St. Louis Public School Foundation, which is the entity I represent, we are the trusted partner for St. Louis Public Schools and leveraging community resources, community dollars, to support gap funding on initiatives in the district. But we also are there to support strategic innovations. Our priorities are post-secondary opportunity, which includes early childhood education, health and well-being, and teacher capacity building. Monday was exceedingly unfortunate and tragic, and it shook everyone in St. Louis, and particularly the families of those who were lost and the families at Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience, and Central Visual Performing Arts High Schools, which are both co-located on the same campus. In the last 48 hours, the foundation has spent a number of hours and really focused on queuing up mental health resources, and particularly practitioners, so that when the district needs them, they're ready. We've also been in conversation with several business leaders and philanthropic leaders in the area who have expressed care and concern and offered whatever they can do to support. Our job, again, has been to raise those dollars, hold those dollars, and invest them in district-specified need areas. Our priority right now, obviously, is creating resources and support to help the families and the schools directly around Monday's tragedy. Long term, we have a health and well-being priority. And so, while we are foot soldiers for the district in the now, just really trying to make sure we are ready and primed when we are needed and how we're needed, we are also making sure we are ready and primed to actually address an issue that's been going on in St. Louis for quite some time. Monday's events were symptomatic of this larger crisis of health and well-being. And what we wouldn't want people to lose sight of is the fact that issues like Monday, they're connected to a greater picture, that the community needs to come together and must come together to support. And what's been amazing is in the last 48 hours, we've received more calls, more emails, and more gifts, just trying to problem solve, not just around the acute issue. What's been amazing is that people do understand that this is part of a greater context that needs to be addressed. We have welcomed donations to date to that health and well-being priority area, obviously with the priority going toward the schools most impacted, and then the other portion of that going towards sustainability. People who wish to give can give using the foundation's website, slpsfoundation.org. I have just been briefed that we are experiencing some technical difficulties due to traffic and some browser challenges, but I've also been assured that those will be resolved by day's end. I just want to, as a child that's attended St. Louis Public Schools, as a former educator in St. Louis Public Schools, and as someone who, just believes in the world of Dr. Adams and his leadership, the district.
All right, you've been listening to the press conference that's happening at police headquarters, and we're going to continue to monitor it. Kevin Killeen is there. He'll join us a little bit later on to sum up. We really want to get to the question and answer portion of this, which hopefully will happen at some point. Yesterday, it got cut off before we could get to the question and answer session. But a lot of information there about what's coming up. There's going to be a town hall meeting tomorrow organized by Corey Bush and a few other things that we'll summarize and talk about with Kevin Killeen a little bit later on. And again, we still have this. We're recording in the background. So when we get to the Q&A and we get to some of the other stuff that we've been waiting to hear about, we will be bringing that to you in just a little bit. So we'll have more from that press conference potentially in the news. Kevin Killeen will join us in just a little bit. And obviously we'll pick things back up after the news here on the show.
KMOX, KECK HD2, K254CR, St. Louis.
The home of the Cardinals, KMOX. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Procrastination. We've all been there. But have you been dragging your feet when it comes to creating your retirement plan? I've heard it all from, I have time before I need to make a decision, or I'll eliminate debt first and then get ready for retirement. I've seen far too many people waste valuable time for their retirement planning, and I don't want you to be one of them. Hi, I'm Ken Heisey with Heisey Advisory Group. I'm on a mission to help people recognize the potential destructive impact procrastination can have on their retirement plan. Don't procrastinate. Call us today at 314-328-4400 to ensure you get on the right path toward your retirement dream. That's 314-328-4400, 314-328-4400.
Heisey Advisory Group provides insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Mid-America's most trusted source for news. KMOX.
At 12 noon, we have a clear sky, 53 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Stuart McMillan. We're learning more about the school shooting that happened on Monday. Officers used the Schnucks parking lot as a command center, later switched gears to put kids on buses to get them to safety. A press conference just moments ago, Interim Police Chief Michael Sack thanked nearby construction workers who happened to have the tools so police could get through the locked doors of CVPA.
So something as simple and mundane as some tools can mean the difference between the life and death of a child or a parent inside that building. So it may not seem like a lot, but it was a powerful gesture. So I appreciate those workers who provided us with those critical tools needed at that time.
He also talked about the Schnucks grocery store, saying that they were very helpful, bringing even water to the scene for the officers and some of the kids. The man charged with killing 6 people and injuring dozens of others by driving his SUV into a Christmas parade near Milwaukee has been found guilty of dozens of charges. KMOX News Time is 12:01. We're now returning to the press conference where questions are happening at police headquarters right now. We go to that live on KMOX.
They kind of had a system where they would track, what might come in the mail, his interactions with others, and try and ensure that he's engaging people, that he feels loved. So it's just, I don't know what to say. It's just a terrible thing. And it's hard to try and figure out what might have been in somebody's mind. But, the notebook, I think, is just really insightful. It shows where he was, what place he was in, and he just couldn't come out of it. The parents, when he interacted with them, he might have hidden some of his feelings and thoughts. He did mention that in the notebook. I recall reading that nobody really knows. They can't tell that I'm doing this and getting ready. They never had access to the notebook. They would search his room on occasion because they were concerned. But like I said, they were constantly in touch with the medical providers who were providing medical care for him. They had him committed on some occasions. They were just really very engaged and attuned to him, when he went to work and everything. So, mental health is a difficult thing. It's hard to tell when somebody is going to be violent or act out, or if they're just struggling, they're depressed, and they might self-harm. But I've got to give credit to the family. They made every effort that they felt that they reasonably could, and I think that's why the mother is so heartbroken over the families that paid for his episode.
Do you know how long he had the gun in his possession?
We're trying to go back on a trace of that, but it's going to depend upon when the purchase was. So, and how he purchased that. But we're hopeful that we can come up with some information on it. And we're trying to track that down now.
Did his family know when he bought it?
No, they don't know when he acquired it either. And that's hopefully we'll be able to come up with some information on that.
Do you know how the patients are doing in the hospital?
I haven't heard an update. I know 2, I believe it was young ladies had broken ankles from jumping out of windows, and the others were by gunfire. We did have one officer had some cuts on his arm from going through a window or doing something with a window. But everybody else who survived that day seems to be in a good place right now. But if we do get an update on their condition, we'll be sure to pass that to our media office.
If you were aware he had a firearm, was it this gun and they tried to take it from his possession before?
So what they did is they contacted us and said that he had a firearm. I believe it could have possibly been this gun. The officers in their response handed it over to somebody else, an adult who was lawfully able to possess it. The mother at the time wanted it out of the house, so they facilitated that. This other party had it. How he acquired it after that, we don't know. That's what we're looking into, and that'll involve some continued
So this
interviews.
issue of him trying to buy from a gun show and being turned down, would that have red flagged him in the system and that's why he had to go to a private seller?
I think you could deduce that if he tried to buy a gun and they said no, then he would have, if he's intent on doing something, he would try and find some alternative means to acquire a firearm.
When did this interaction happen with the police where they actually took the gun away from him?
I don't recall the date.
I mean, was it recent?
It was within the last few months, I believe, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
Chief, it was her same gun.
I believe so. We'll check and we'll put that information out.
Chief, for clarification.
Some modifications to the firearm. Can you talk about how that would have affected the usage of it? I know we heard some students saying that maybe it jammed and that prevented him from firing for a while, or do you believe it was that missing piece that might have made it too hot?
Well, in the image we saw yesterday, there was no forward handguard, which would come, the dark colored, larger diameter tube is the barrel. Above it, the silver with a little dip in it. That's going to be the gas tube, the port that blows gas backwards into the chamber. That's covered normally by a hand guard. That was missing. Again, that was just my first observation of it. Now, the firearms examiner would be able to tell us when they complete their examination of the weapon and test it if there was anything mechanically wrong with it. But just from my observations, and I'm not a firearms examiner, it didn't look to be in the best shape. So that could have been, one of the reasons why he might have had some difficulty.
So you talked about your investigation into finding out who might have been part of this private sale. There are some people talking about the Missouri Second Amendment Preservation Act, and that might prohibit local law enforcement like you turning any information into the FBI or federal investigators. What is your interpretation of that? And do you believe that any findings that you have might not be able to be turned into a higher authority?
If I find something out, I'm going to pass it along.
Chief,
That's just public safety.
May I just call for clear? There was a dance instructor, Ray Clark, who said the gunman pointed a gun at him and then pointed it away. And I just want to clarify, did he target the school in just a general way, or were there specific individuals that he was looking for to get some sort of vengeance?
Sure, but as far as pointing at him, pointing it away, we'll never know. Maybe he pulled the trigger and it malfunctioned. Maybe he didn't want to shoot that individual. I don't know. Remember, he had a mask on, so the people there weren't really sure who it was themselves. But I believe he did have some individuals he wanted to target. But I think the school in general, I know.
Was the health teacher one of them?
I don't recall, and I don't know the health teacher's name. If was included or not.
Chief, if you're able, and I apologize if you mentioned this before,
Sure.
Are you able to say where the gunman entered into school?
Yep. We're not going to talk about where or how the gunman entered. I understand that that's something everybody would like to know. But the reality is every building, a school, a business, a police headquarters has weaknesses. And so what we try to do is harden those buildings to protect the individuals inside, or in some cases, secure items, or evidence that we might have here. So to share that kind of information could adversely affect the school district that is working. The doors were locked. They had done everything they reasonably could, but they're going to take efforts going forward to examine that and then try and replicate a means to make it harder to get inside the building.
Can you
So
tell us
like-
if he had to break glass? Can you tell us if he had to break glass to get into the building now?
So he had a force entry. So he did have to force entry. And that's good for us because that buys us time. The more time we have when something like this comes up, and boy, those security officers were right on it. They immediately called when this had started. And that, the clock started at that point and we were on the way. And by having some delay, it bought us some time to get to the building.
Did someone was trying to break glass to enter?
There was forced entry.
Will any surveillance video be released? I know that the FBI has that right now. Will any be released, and why or why not?
The FBI has what surveillance video? You mean?
Surveillance video that's been handed from the school.
Oh, so what's happening? You might be referring to the uploads. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, we Sunshine request any and all surveillance video from Central VPA. They said that all that has been handed over to the FBI. So will any of that be released to public?
So with the open investigation ongoing right now, that won't be released at this time. But at some point in the future, we'll be able to make a decision of what can be released. Certainly there will be redacted parts. Remember, we've got minors here, so we want to protect their identity. The decedents and certain parts of the scene really don't need to be viewed.
Okay, someone there that has entered the school. Mayor, can you give us an update on where your search stands for a new police chief? I think that it's been a long process, right? And a lot of people around the country are applauding the actions of St. Louis police here. So we're still working.
All right, so that was the wrap up of the press conference, and the question and answer session was the really informative part, and we learned a lot. Although there's a lot of still to be decided definitively. We learned quite a bit about the acquisition of the weapon, although we don't know exactly how the weapon was brought back. But I don't know what stood out the most to you, but to me, what stood out was that the shooter's parents found that he had this weapon, called the police, and the police came out, and the parents, I think he said the mom, wanted the weapon out of the house, so they gave it to another adult that lived outside of the home to get it out of the house. A person that was allowed to have that kind of weapon, somebody that was not underage, somebody that was not in any way restricted from having it.
And it was a weapon.
Right.
They did not confirm that it was this
one.
same weapon.
We
So
do not know
whether or
that.
not he got another gun or he got this one back, we do not know. But we do know, and again, going back to the family wanting the weapon out of the house, he had a history of mental health issues. His family had been in touch for a long time with medical providers. They wanted to make sure he stayed on his medicine. They searched his room periodically. I believe he was also committed several times, is the phrase that was used. So he had a history of these mental health issues, and the family was trying to stay on top of it.
And we've in fact, we've had this discussion before this tragedy happened on Monday. We had recently, I think even last week, talked about the fact that you can be a parent who is on top of it with your son or daughter, and still something happens. And and I don't know how much more these parents could have done, but from everything we've heard in the last 24, 48 hours, it sounds like they were trying to help this guy out.
And it seems that they do know that he was hiding his intentions from his parents.
Yeah.
They did not know he had these intentions.
Yeah, he was actually mentioning that in the journal, according to the police chief, that he was saying they don't know that I'm planning this or that I'm thinking about this.
And also one other note about the weapon they used. You heard the police chief, the interim police chief, Michael Sachs, say that his quote was not in the best shape. So the fact the weapon, was missing that
front hand guard.
Yeah, the hand guard in the front. It may not have been all that good, and because of that, may have prevented a lot of death because the thing was not really all that functional. It was functional, but not as well as it could have been.
One of the reports from a student survivor was that he pointed the gun at her. This was the 16-year-old.
This was right after the fact.
Right
Yeah.
after the shooting, she said he pointed the gun at her. The gun jammed. That's the only reason why she was able to get away. So that was her account. And again, law enforcement has since said that forward handguard is missing. That's significant because that barrel gets very, very hot. It would
You
be
can't hold it. You
incredibly
can't
difficult
steady
to
it.
With
hold.
gloves, you could, but I mean, it would still be difficult to have control. It'd be difficult to have aim without it functioning properly. But what we don't know either, I mean, again, they're still investigating all of this. Chief Sack mentioned that they still have their firearms specialist examining it to figure out, whether there was a mechanical flaw, whatever. We don't know if that was there while it was happening and fell off when he was shot and went to the ground. That's the part that we're not aware of.
Right.
They may be, but they weren't clear on that. They also made the point, and this is something that's going to be interesting. The SAPA Act came up during this because the chief was asked, and that's the Second Amendment Protection Act, and that's what that's about. But that can limit what local authorities in Missouri can pass along to federal authorities. So when information was asked of Chief Sack, his quote was, "If I find something out, I'm going to share it. That's just public safety."
Yep.
And I have a feeling there might be, I don't know if this is, that may be how he believes. I'm not sure that's going to be how it ends up going, because this act does prevent local law enforcement, state law enforcement from sharing certain things. Now, again, I'm not totally educated on the entirety, the breadth of that law, the breadth of that act, but that is a consideration. They cannot share anything that they want to.
And I really hope that does not become an obstacle down the road, because if you ask any reasonable person, there is not a reasonable person in this state that would not want the St. Louis Police Department to share information like that with the FBI so they can get to the bottom of this and make sure it doesn't happen again. Not one reasonable person would argue against that.
And again, it was noted that the ATF is working on tracing the weapon,
Right.
because we know that the family was well aware, very involved in the mental health issues that the shooter was dealing with. They were working with medical providers. They were searching his room periodically. He had been committed several times, was the phrase used. What they don't know is how and when he purchased the gun. But at some point within the last few months, the family found a weapon. We don't know if it was the weapon that he used, but they found a weapon in the house. They called the police. They brought it to the police because the mother wanted it out of the house, and the police were able to give it to someone else, an adult who was able to have that gun. So we don't know if it's the same gun, if he got it back, if he got a different gun. But this interaction happened within the last few months.
And that's a thing that is an important bit of information to know. Did he reacquire this? Or did he get a new one somewhere else because this one was taken away from him? It's important to know either way, whatever happened.
And the ATF is working on tracing that purchase, because I believe they do not know yet how or when he even got the original weapon, and whether or not that's the same weapon that was used for the shooting. So that is yet to be revealed and investigated.
Okay, so our Kevin Killeen is still there. We're going to catch up with him when he's free, and we'll kind of go over his takeaways from it, maybe if there's something extra that we didn't get to yet. We're also going to go back and try to find some more of the audio, too, because I think it'd be nice to hear it again. Some of this stuff there's a lot of detail to it, and it's a little bit easier to hear it again. So we'll go back and get some of that. We'll be catching up with Kevin Killeen coming up as well here on the show.
For everything online, it's Odyssey.com. Download the Odyssey app and listen to KMOX for all the news, sports, talk, and podcasts that move you. Odyssey, that's AUDACY.
Driven by the Bomarito Automotive Group, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
To understand what makes Diamonds Direct so different than other jewelry stores, you have to go back 60 years, when a diamond cutter in Israel became well known for his exceptional craftsmanship. His diamond cutting business flourished for decades. Then his sons got involved and started selling these exceptional diamonds to upscale jewelry stores here in America. Then, after a few years, these wholesalers changed the game and started selling these precious diamonds direct to the public at the same prices they had sold to the jewelry stores. The no middleman concept became an instant success, and Diamonds Direct was born. Today, Diamonds Direct provides that extraordinary value to people all over America, leading the industry with the highest quality diamonds that still come straight from the best cutters, offered at the guaranteed best prices, period. Diamonds Direct, a truly revolutionary concept with a unique history rooted in quality, committed to excellence, and always focused on value. Diamonds Direct, your love, our passion. DiamondsDirect.com.
This month's Zero Res special. The more you clean, the more you save. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129 or 5 rooms starting at $199. A 43% savings. Take $75 off any air duct cleaning package. Call 314-474-2020 or go to ZeroResSTL.com.
Hi guys, it's Andrew. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Well, today, Wednesday, October 26th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pineview Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow, treating the root cause problem of ED. It's backed by 60 studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain that spark in the bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. Also, a gift that can produce rapid results in the bedroom. You're going to love that, guys, trust me. And today only, we're offering 5 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is unprecedented, worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify free. 314-530-7777. That's 314-530-7777. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Pineview Medical Clinic now to qualify. 314-530-7777.
Experience one of the biggest films in motion picture history with director Steven Spielberg's ultimate thrill ride. Jurassic Park, screened in HD on Powell Hall's giant screen, with John Williams' iconic score performed live to picture by your St. Louis Symphony Orchestra, November 4th through 6th. Tickets at slso.org.
Caring for residents for over a century, Manor Grove is committed to making everyone feel at home. Choosing a home for your loved one to reside is an important decision and shouldn't be taken lightly. Manor Grove makes your decision easy with medical professionals and staff who care for residents like family. If you are looking for a caring and quality nursing home and rehab facility, please visit our website, manorgrove.com, and take our virtual tour. Manor Grove, over a century of caring. Welcome home to Manor Grove.
It's easy to think all money managers are pretty much the same, but at Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Different? How? You sell high commission investment products, right?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission-based investment products.
Well, you must earn commissions on trades.
Nope, never at Fisher. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in our client's best interest. It's the highest standard of care for a financial advisor.
How do you know what's in their best interest?
We get to know our clients and then tailor a portfolio based on their goals and needs.
But you probably sneak in some hidden and layered fees.
No, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, you really do look out for your clients.
That's because our top priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. It might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments and securities involve the risk of loss.
Women's health decisions should be between herself and her doctor, not up to politicians like Jennifer Cordy. Cordy won't protect a woman's right to choose. She'll ban it completely. Cordy says women who are raped and then end the pregnancy are making a decision they regret later.
Politicians like Jennifer Cordy will make us less safe and less free. I'm Katie Stewart, candidate for state representative. I'll protect a woman's right to choose and ensure women have access to critical health services. I'm committed to ending violence against women by investing in domestic violence shelters and health care for survivors. I'm Katie Stewart. I'm fighting to make our communities safer. I voted to increase funding for more police and high-tech crime-fighting resources. It's why I've been endorsed by the FOP.
I trust Katie Stewart to make the right choice for all women in the state of Illinois.
I'm Katie Stewart. I'm focused on real results for our families. Paid for by Friends for Katie Stewart.
Connect with KMOX on air, online, 11:20 a.m., 98.7 FM, KMOX.com.
All right, Chris Ranji, Amy Marsh, of course, Kevin Wheeler with you on the show. Again, just a little bit ago, wrapped up the press conference at police headquarters. And we're pulling together the audio of some of the key points that were addressed there. But again, to make sure everybody's up to date, if they missed the key things here. One, a little bit more, quite a bit more information, I should say, on the shooter and his background, a long history of mental health issues. The family was on top of it. They had been working to make sure that he stayed on his meds. Obviously, it sounds like that was a bit of a challenge to do, that he had been committed at times in the past, that they had talked to him, that they were trying to get him help and trying to get the information. But in his own journal, he even said, they don't know what I'm doing, what I'm planning. Mm-hmm. I'm paraphrasing, but he was keeping a lot of what he was actually doing and what he was actually experiencing and feeling, keeping that from his family members. We know that they found a gun in his possession in some way. We don't know if it's the same one, but that within the last few months, according to Interim Chief Sack, within the last few months, there was an interaction with police involving a gun that where they took it from the home, where I think he said the mother found it, called the police. They came out, and in the process of removing that particular gun from the home, it was given to another adult who was allowed to have it, who was okay to possess that weapon. What we don't know is if it was the same one. We don't know, and if it was the same one, we don't know how it got back into the hands of the shooter. Where they're still sorting that part out. They're still trying to trace where the gun came from, the one that was used in the shooting. They're in the process of doing that, checking out the serial number and all of that. But they did mention that can be difficult at times if they were sales from private owners. So there are reasons why we don't have some more answers in that regard.
Yeah. And the question was asked, which we should reiterate, because of the SAPA Act, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, there is there's some uncertainty about whether or not local law enforcement can share information on an investigation about the weapon with the FBI because of that act, because there are roadblocks to doing that in the state of Missouri. And Interim Police Chief Sack said, if I find something out, I'm going to share it. That's just public safety. So we'll see if that changes, because if there is a difficulty, if there is legal recourse against you for sharing something like that, he may change his mind on it down the road. Hopefully that's not the case, because I don't think anybody who's a reasonable person would argue that they shouldn't be sharing information, because the whole point is to prevent something like this from happening again, right?
And keep in mind that this would not be an investigation that would be bringing charges against the shooter. The shooter's dead.
Right.
This would be about if the gun
How it was acquired.
if it was acquired illegally, which they're still trying to determine, then what would you follow from there? And again, we'll have to at some point here soon get some clarification on SAPA and what is in it, what the details are, because we know there is information that can't be shared, but I'm not sure exactly what that is.
It is a very new thing. I mean, we're talking within the last year.
Right.
This is a very new act.
So, and to be clear, too, the SAPA Act is not just about sharing information, but would actually prevent local law enforcement officers from enforcing federal gun legislation. So if you have a local
you have
law
to follow
enforcement
the local
officer,
laws, right?
Yes, that officer could get in trouble, according to the SAPA, for enforcing federal gun legislation. That is a disaster and very confusing for law enforcement.
Right, and that would be laws that are in conflict with the laws of the state.
And
that would be my understanding. If it was in conflict with the laws of Missouri, they're not supposed to enforce that according to this act. Again, there's a lot to it. I'm sure there's a lot of details that I know I'm not aware of, and certainly we'll seek someone out that knows more about it to sort that through, because we don't know what can and can't be shared exactly, but we do know there is information that cannot be shared.
And I would imagine that law enforcement across the board doesn't like this. I'm sure they don't want to be impeded in their investigations. I'm certain of it.
We can certainly ask around about that as well. We're going to try to catch up with Kevin Killeen here in a little bit to get a bit of a wrap up from that press conference. So stick around. We got a lot more coverage coming your way here on the show.
The Musial Awards return to Stiefel Theater this fall. You can be in the audience for this nationally televised event Saturday, November 19th. Named for Stan the Man, the awards celebrate those who embody extraordinary sportsmanship. Come walk the red carpet and experience the most inspiring night in sports. It's a show you don't want to miss and a perfect way to kick off the holiday season. The Musial Awards, presented by Maryville University, Saturday, November 19th. Tickets at musialawards.com.
Hey, it's Trish Gazelle for Ophthalmology Associates, the office of Dr. Greg Birdie, Dr. Ranjan Malhotra, Dr. Robert Brusati, and Dr. Andy Royer. I went there over 20 years ago for my LASIK procedure. Couldn't be happier 20 years later. They are the doctors, and that's their nickname because they have treated more than 250 doctors, more than any other practice. And Dr. Birdie and Dr. Malhotra are cornea surgeons and experts in diagnosis and treatment of diseases of the eye, dry eye, allergy eye, eyes, cataracts, macular degeneration, glaucoma, and LASIK surgery. Call for an appointment today. Doctors Greg Birdie, Dr. Ranjan Malhotra, Dr. Robert Brusati, and Dr. Andy Royer, 314-966-5000 or youridoc.com. They're located off Manchester Road, 12990 Manchester Road, a half mile west of 270 on eastbound Manchester Road. Again, for more information, call Ophthalmology Associates at 314-966-5000 or go to youridoc.com.
This is Debbie Monterey with a real estate update and some insight from my friend and trusted realtor, Gloria Liu, with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria told me that sitting on the sidelines may not be the best strategy moving forward in this continually shifting market. Homes aren't selling as quickly, and in most cases, price reductions are becoming pretty common. Gloria also said that earlier this year, with low inventory, sellers didn't need a strategy to sell homes because homes were listed and sold immediately. Now more than ever, it's crucial to have a proven strategy to get your home sold, and that's why I strongly suggest you call local real estate expert Gloria Liu before you list your home to get the absolute most money. Gloria is so confident that she will sell your home, she'll guarantee in writing upfront to sell it at your agreed-to price and time frame, or she'll buy your home herself. Learn more by calling Gloria Liu at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or online at gloriahasthebuyers.com.
At 12:30, 55 degrees, a clear sky downtown at the Arch. I'm Stuart McMillan. Here's what's happening. This news sponsored by Michael's Flooring Outlet. The flooring experts, michaelsflooringoutlet.com. Still questions remain about how the gunman got into Central VPA on Monday at that school shooting. In a press conference in the last hour, police headquarters, interim police chief Michael Sack.
We're not going to talk about where or how the gunman entered. I understand that that's something everybody would like to know. But the reality is every building, a school, a business, a police headquarters has weaknesses. And so what we try to do is harden those buildings to protect the individuals inside, or in some cases, secure items, or evidence that we might have here. So to share that kind of information could adversely affect the school district that is working. The doors were locked. They had done everything they reasonably could, but they're going to take efforts going forward to examine that and then try and replicate a means to make it harder to get inside the building.
Rumors circulating about a second shooter on Monday were dispelled by Chief Sack. He made it clear there was only one shooter. Stalled vehicle I-270 just before 64, the right shoulder. There's a crash now, 370 westbound at I-270. The right shoulder is where that crash is. MoDOT says that won't be cleared up for another 30 minutes. Weather is sponsored by Sandberg Phoenix Law Firm. Weather for today, a high of 60, low of 41 tonight, mainly clear. Tomorrow's high, 63 with clouds and sunshine, 66 degrees on Friday with a partly cloudy sky. Right now, St. Peter's, it's 56. 55 degrees in Florissant, and 55 downtown to the Arch. I'm Stuart McMillan, KMOX News.
Hi, this is Kent Newbold at Newbold Toyota. Since we led the St. Louis Metro in Toyota sales in August, the factory gave us a whole bunch of cars. So come see us, Newbold Toyota in O'Fallon, Illinois, or newboldtoyota.com. You'll be sold on Newbold.
Driven by the Bomarito Automotive Group, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Learn about the history and lessons of the Holocaust at the newly renovated St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum, reopening November 2nd. Membership and tickets for individual and group tours at stlholocaustmuseum.org.
You're not just looking for a doctor, you're looking for a way to feel better. At Archwell Health, our team is devoted to improving the lives of seniors like you. Barbara was ready to try chair yoga for the first time. She took one of our classes and met friends along the way. James chatted with his doctor and the team dietitian and got to the bottom of his dizzy spells. Archwell Health members enjoy a community of comprehensive care because you are more than a patient. Join today at archwellhealth.com/livewell.
This month's Zero Res special. The more you clean, the more you save. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129 or 5 rooms starting at $199. A 43% savings. Take $75 off any air duct cleaning package. Call 314-474-2020 or go to ZeroResSTL.com.
Let's talk real estate for a minute. The St. Louis market is kind of tricky for home sellers right now, with home values going down and not selling as quickly. Now is not the time to risk losing precious equity on your home. This is Debbie Monterey, and I always recommend calling Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria's the best. She's experienced every type of market, both good, great, and the not so good. So before you list your home for sale, call Gloria, and here's why. Gloria Liu will guarantee to sell your home at your agreed to price and time frame, or she'll buy it herself, guaranteed in writing. Gloria already has the buyers, thousands of buyers in her database. In fact, your home may already be sold. Gary and Angela called Gloria and sold their home even before it listed because Gloria had several buyers looking for a home in that area. Call Gloria Liu today at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or find her online at gloriahasthebuyers.com.
For 25 years, ABC7 political reporter Charles Thomas gave you the straight news. Now he's giving you real talk on the governor's race.
These Democrats are into name calling. They'll call people a racist, a misogynist, a homophobic person, or whatever, because they want to distract from the fact that they've accomplished so little in public office. And it's time people woke up and recognized that. J.B. Pritzker, what's he ever done outside of being born on third base and telling the world he hit a triple? J.B. Pritzker and his people called Darren Bailey an extremist. Darren Bailey? I met the man. He's a family farmer, somebody who understands what it's like to go to work every day, somebody who's fair-minded. I could trust this guy. Yeah, a farmer from Southern Illinois. Yeah, farmer from Southern Illinois.
Paid for by people who play by the rules pack.
Get ready for Thursday Night Football as the Ravens take on the Buccaneers. Hear the game on 98.7 FM, 1120 AM, and streaming on KMOX.com. Kickoff at 7. It's Thursday Night Football on America's Sports Voice, KMOX.
All right, 12:35 on the show. Chris Ranji, Amy Marks, Course, Kevin Wheeler with you, joined by Kevin Killeen from the KMOX newsroom. Kevin was at police headquarters for the press conference that just concluded a little bit ago. Kevin, I feel like we learned quite a bit today.
Well, I thought the real bombshell for me that he didn't just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo and pick a school, but this was a school he targeted, and he had a list of people that he wanted to kill. And they kind of glossed over that, but the police chief said, he had a list of specific individuals he was targeting. And Police Chief Michael Sack, as he was walking out, I said, how many people were on that list? And he said, I don't know. That's in the hands of investigators. But I also asked him, was the health teacher, the woman who was killed, on the list? And he was not sure if she was or not. But this reminded me of that haunting moment from the other day. Kevin, remember the dance teacher, Ray Parks, had the gun pointed at him, and then it was pointed at the ground as if he wasn't on the list. In retrospect, it sounds like.
Oh, sorry, Ranji. We were looking at the questions. Well, that was so the investigators have that information right now about that list. Is that expected to be revealed? That seems like an important piece of information.
Well, we hope so. I don't know if they have a timetable for that or why they're keeping it secret at this time, but it's still an ongoing investigation. And one thing they did say is that he acted alone. I wasn't aware of this, but apparently there's been some chatter about he was working with somebody else, but the police chief says he acted alone and he's dead. So we hope the whole notebook comes out at some point to give us an insight. You may remember he said, I don't have any family and I don't have a girlfriend, and on and on. But apparently that wasn't entirely true, because he lived with his mother and sister, and the chief said they've been very cooperative. The mother and sister paint a picture of a young man who was on medication. He was in therapy. They kept close tabs on his mail, and they knew that he had acquired this gun. But that was odd to me, why they didn't swipe it or hide it or, call the police about it. But they knew he had acquired the gun, and they would search his room from time to time. But there was a journal entry that said the killer wrote, nobody knows what I'm planning here and getting ready for. that he kind of felt like he was leading a double life. On the outside, he was acting normal, but in his room, in his notebook, he was planning a school shooting.
So they did find out about the gun, correct? And it was taken away, but they don't know if it was this particular gun. Isn't that because they would? Did the family go to the police? That's what I thought we heard during the press conference.
Yeah, that was a little unclear. There was some gun that was taken away, but I don't know if it was this gun or if that gun that was taken away was given back. The whole thing about the gun is very murky.
Right.
The chief defers that to the ATF, the federal investigators, because he said it did have a serial number on it. It has been scratched off, so that can at least tell the beginning of the chain of ownership. But he's not ready to reveal what they know so far. He said that's in the hands of the other guys, the feds.
Okay, so Kevin, just to clarify here, because we know that Sack said the family contacted law enforcement within the past few months about a gun that was handed over to law enforcement, and then that law enforcement handed that gun to an adult who had the ability to have
And
that
lived
gun
outside the home.
and lived outside the home. So are you saying the family was aware of a second weapon, or at least him possessing a weapon again?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm confused.
Okay.
Well, I have to double check that because it's just confusing.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. I mean, they're also going through. They went through some of the condition of it all, and they'll sort through all of that. But what the other part that was brought up, and I couldn't remember, Kevin, if it was your question or not, but the question continued about the method of entry, and this time we got a little more detail from Chief Sack about why they're not giving that bit of information out about how exactly he gained access to the school.
Yeah, I guess as the chief puts it, he doesn't want to tell other potential gunmen how to get into the school. But we have heard from the school board director yesterday that he peppered the school with bullets. So he's kind of shot his way in, was the implication. And that was at the time when he got in, and there was an unarmed security guard there who couldn't do anything to stop him but call police. So how he got in, not exactly clear, but it seems like he shot his way in.
And so we know that the security guards, the folks at the checkpoint, did act quickly in notifying police it happened. The police chief, Sack, talked about him having to get his way in, which bought them time. How much did the weapon itself aid them? Because you also heard him say, you heard interim chief Sack say that it was not in the best shape. So that probably saved lives too.
The gunman's weapon was not in the best shape.
Right.
Well, there has been some unconfirmed reports that it jammed, and that gave him the chance to take him out. But the chief indicated today the gun had been modified somehow, and I'm not a gun guy, so I'm not sure what he was saying about that. Something about the muzzle was modified. I don't know if that would make the gun less reliable.
Do we know when or if there are going to be further updates here in the next few hours or 24 hours?
I don't think we're going to get another one today. I kind of think today was crafted. They said that the mayor organized it, and Cori Bush was there. So I think this was kind of in part to give Cori Bush a chance to talk about her federal interest in gun control legislation and that angle of it. She talked about how the House has passed gun reform and the Senate needs to, and she wants an assault weapons ban and gun registration, things like that. So I think this was a big come together with some of the politicians and the police, and we might not see anything more on this scale, at least not a press conference today.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much. Always appreciate the help. We'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.
You got it. Kevin Killeen from the KMOX newsroom was on site for the press conference today. It was a long event. There was like 40 minutes, 45 minutes of information to sort through. And we've got some clips that we want to go back to. So let's do that coming up in a few minutes. We've got a few kind of longer form question and answers that'll get into some of these key topics that we're talking about. So hearing them could be very helpful in moving this forward. So we'll jump into some of those clips next up here on the show.
After years of hearing the commercials on KMOX, I decided to finally make an appointment with Ophthalmology Associates. You know the doctors at Ophthalmology Associates, Dr. Greg Birdie, Dr. Ranjan Malhotra, Dr. Robert Busati, and Dr. Andy Royer. Well, I'd been hearing about dry eye, and I knew that I had dry eyes. Dr. Ranjan Malhotra told me that it's not just an irritating problem, it's actually irritating my eyes, and that it's so important to have dry eye addressed because it can actually scratch your cornea, cause greater damage, lead you to believe that your vision is getting worse. Turns out I don't need new glasses. I just need to address the dry eye situation. You should definitely check out Ophthalmology Associates. They are experts in the diagnosis and treatment of diseases of the eye. Call for an appointment today, 314-966-5000 or online at youridoc.com, 12990 Manchester Road, just a half mile west of 270 eastbound on Manchester. Ophthalmology Associates. youridoc.com.
Hi guys, it's Andrew. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Well, today, Wednesday, October 26th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pineview Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow, treating the root cause problem of ED. It's backed by 60 studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain that spark in the bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. Also, a gift that can produce rapid results in the bedroom. You're going to love that, guys, trust me. And today only, we're offering 5 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is unprecedented, worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify free. 314-530-7777. That's 314-530-7777. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Pineview Medical Clinic now to qualify. 314-530-7777.
Learn about the history and lessons of the Holocaust at the newly renovated St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum, reopening November 2nd. Membership and tickets for individual and group tours at stlholocaustmuseum.org.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com.
Hi, this is Ken.
And Laurie Heisey of Heisey Advisory Group. We're dedicated to helping individuals and families work toward their financial goals.
Join us Sundays at 9:30 a.m. for Your Retirement Highway.
Investment advisory services by individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444. Kevin Wheeler. Nice. Amy Markscourt. Fabulous. Chris Ranji. Unbelievable. On the show.
All right, 1246. Let's get into some of what we heard earlier at that press conference. I want you to hear it. I know everybody's tuning in at various points. So if you missed some of these key things that were revealed in the press conference, we want to review at least a few of those. And then at the top of the hour, we're going to change gears. We're going to talk to a guest about election security here in town in St. Louis. So that'll be coming up after the 1 o'clock news. Let's start with kind of the beginning of the Q&A session where this is again with Chief Sack talking about rumors that there was more than one gunman or more than one person involved, and also getting into the mental health aspect of this investigation.
But at this point, we've only determined that there's going to be one shooter involved in this incident, and that shooter is deceased. So I know that there's some stuff out there in the media talking about a potential second shooter. We have nothing that can validate that being the case. Secondly, I'd like to give you a little better representation of the suspect's mother and family. She has been fully cooperative. She is heartbroken for the families of this incident, for the school and the alumni. Someone from our department had interviewed her yesterday and spoke to the adult daughter. They have been working with mental health institutions in the local area. They've hooked him up with a professional mental health provider. They've been supportive of him. Whenever they noticed him kind of stepping out of line or going out of turn, they always worked to try and get him back on his medication or back into therapy or whatever it is that he needed. But I just want to make sure that the community is aware that the family is fully cooperative. They're also heartbroken over this incident, And the impression that I get from the investigator who spoke to the mother is that they've done everything that they could possibly have done, but sometimes that's not enough. Mental health is a terrible thing, and we can't anticipate what will come. But the family appears to have done everything that they could have possibly done to try to help this young man live with his mental health issues.
So that's just one part of this, and there was important. I think why the reason Chief Sack wanted to make that part clear is because in the notebook and in the section that they read yesterday, the shooter himself said, "I have no family," and went on this list, "Don't have friends." Well, clearly he had family. He lived with his mother and his sister, his adult sister, and they were doing a lot to try to keep him on that path towards getting the help that he needed. But as we'll find out a little bit more as we get into some of this, I mean, he was even saying in his own journal, they don't know what I'm doing. They don't know what's going on.
Because they, like, as Chief Michael Sack said, that the family was bringing him to medical professionals. He had medicine. They were checking his room periodically, and that the shooter did hide his intentions from his family. Going back momentarily to the list, the school was targeted, and there were people on the list who were also going to be targeted. We don't know how many people were on the list. We don't know if the gym teacher was on the list. I wonder if that's something that we just find out, if it was the gym teacher or the student, because I don't think you release the rest of those names.
I was thinking the same thing.
I
don't even know if you should tell. Would I want to know if I was on a kill list? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm somebody who is there and was part of the school, teacher, whatever, I'm not sure that those people should be notified or would even want to be notified of that.
I don't know what the laws are, but if they wanted to, then yes.
Maybe
And
they
if
could.
If they don't want to, then that's fine.
I
But
just don't think that needs to be
if somebody
published.
reaches out to you
I
and
agree with
says, "Do
that.
you want to know if you're on our list?" What are you going to assume? You're going to assume you're on the list. Somebody asks you that, right? There is a delicate process here, because you do need to evaluate what the need is, and also, again, there are people that may not want to have that kind of information, and certainly putting it public. They're saying it's only one shooter, so it wouldn't necessarily put you at any danger. But
my guess is, though, if you're doing an investigation and you're looking at his motivations, if someone's on the list, the investigators might want to talk to you. What's your relationship to him?
That's
so
true.
I see that as part of the investigation.
But maybe not public. I don't know if
But
the
not
rest of us
public,
need to know.
Yeah.
And honestly, they may not be able to say, since we're dealing with minors, I don't know what
That's a
the
good
rules
point.
are.
Yep.
But as far as it was the teacher on the list, the police chief said he personally did not know, since that list was in the hands of investigators now. But yeah.
that's not clear at this point. Now, he did talk a bit more, the chief did, about what they've seen in the book.
The notebook, I think, is just really insightful. It shows where he was, what place he was in, and he just couldn't come out of it. The parents, when he interacted with them, he might have hidden some of his feelings and thoughts. He did mention that in the notebook. I recall reading that nobody really knows. They can't tell that I'm doing this and getting ready. They never had access to the notebook. They would search his room on occasion because they were concerned. But like I said, they were constantly in touch with the medical providers who were providing medical care for him. They had him committed on some occasions. They were just really very engaged and attuned to him, when he went to work and everything. So, mental health is a difficult thing. It's hard to tell when somebody is going to be violent or act out, or if they're just struggling, they're depressed, and they might self-harm. But I've got to give credit to the family. They made every effort that they felt that they reasonably could, and I think that's why the mother is so heartbroken over the families that paid for his episode.
So again, that's a bit of a follow-up on the notes and continuing on the family. Now, there's one other part that we wanted to play, and this was an important one too. This is about the shooter's mother discovering a gun and calling police, and kind of where that went.
So what they did is they contacted us and said that he had a firearm by gunfire.
We weren't aware he had a firearm. Was it this gun, and they had tried to take it from his possession before?
So what they did is they contacted us and said that he had a firearm. I believe it could have possibly been this gun. The officers in their response handed it over to somebody else, an adult who was lawfully able to possess it. The mother at the time wanted it out of the house, so they facilitated that. This other party had it. How he acquired it after that, we don't know. That's what we're looking into. That'll involve some continued interviews.
So is it him trying to buy from a gun show and being turned down? Would that have red flagged him in the system, and that's why they had to go to a private seller?
I think you could deduce that if he tried to buy a gun and they said no, then he would have.
So that got cut off a little bit there, but he said what you could deduce is that if you tried to buy it from a dealer and were told no, that you would go the private route, the route that is a little bit more difficult to trace down, a little bit more tough, a little more difficult to trace the step-by-step of who owned the gun when and where it originated. They can figure out via the serial number, I think, the originator, like who bought it first, but after that it can be, as they put it, a little bit more complicated.
Right. So it's going to be a difficult process maybe to find out where he got this or, where it did originate. I guess we could find that part out,
eventually,
like where it originated. And maybe that's not even the important answer. The important answer is probably going to be who gave it to him, and
whether it was the same one, right? I mean, if it's the same.
Well,
gun,
I think if the weapon that was used was the one that was taken away from him, that is a really important bit of information. I think,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because you had people in the family or friends of the family who thought the problem was solved because we got this weapon out of his hands,
out of the house.
How in the world did he get it back? If that's in fact what happened,
right.
We don't know that, and I'm sure we will find out if that's what happened down the line. At any rate, it is alarming that somebody like this was able to purchase a weapon.
Yeah, I'm just struck by the amount of pain and suffering and tragedy all the way around on this. When you look at just the students in the school, the families that lost a daughter, that lost, a sister, whatever your relationship is, you lost that. I do think also when we were talking to Beth, our news director yesterday, she said one of the statements that stood out to her from a student, I can't remember where she heard it, but in the many interviews, was a student said, "This was my first school shooting."
Yeah, like there are going to be more.
It's not like the first in my lifetime, but just like this is something that students expect,
yeah.
Or maybe part of your school experience. And that's a really striking statement. And again, the shooter obviously had severe mental health issues. I can't imagine being the family member of the shooter. And again, as the police chief said, that the mother was distraught and was completely cooperative, saying this is everything we've done, searching the rooms, taking him to medical professionals. It's tragic on every single level.
We'll continue to follow the investigation, and when there's more news, we'll have that for you here on KMOX. Coming up after the top of the hour news, we're going to catch up with Rick Stream. He's the Republican Director of Elections for St. Louis County. We'll talk about election security, voter intimidation, things along those lines, if there are anything, things that we need to be concerned about with November 8th right around the corner. At 1:30, we'll also tell you about all the things that we found out from the Cardinals today, as they had a lot of news to announce. They got to that a little earlier today. We'll cut that coming up at about 1:30.
Hi, this is Steve Butts at the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. This year marks our 60th anniversary serving our clients and friends, a tribute to our founder and my dad, Norbert Butts. As your local independent insurance agency, we've been proud to represent many fine carriers such as Safeco, Travelers, and Progressive. So please give us a call for all your insurance needs. 314-752-2500 or CrawfordButts.com.
Tom Ackerman here for Building Community with Busey Bank, a podcast series easily accessible at KMOX.com/community banking. This month, the United Way celebrates 100 years of helping those in our region. And of course, Busey Bank continues its long-standing involvement. Our October podcast focuses on what the United Way means to our community and the many ways you can get involved. Listen to our October podcast, Building Community with Busey Bank, at KMOX.com/community banking.
To understand what makes Diamonds Direct different, you have to know our history.
It goes back 70 years to a renowned diamond cutter overseas. From there came years of diamond cutting, manufacturing, and wholesaling, supplying exquisite fine diamonds to top high-end jewelers. Eventually, those same wholesalers began selling direct to you, and that started a revolution. Today, we are a global diamond powerhouse with hundreds of thousands of customers and an impeccable reputation. But our core values remain the same as always. Our diamonds are the highest quality cut by the best craftsmen. Our prices are the most compelling. Our selection is staggering, and our warranties and guarantees are unbeatable. And our entire team's only goal is to help you find the diamond of your dreams. So as the story unfolds and the revolution continues, we invite you into our home to enjoy a jewelry shopping experience unlike any other. Born in craftsmanship, rooted in quality, and thriving in passion. Diamonds Direct. Your love, our passion. Online at diamondsdirect.com.
KMOX, KECK HD2, K254CR St. Louis.
The legendary voice of St. Louis, KMOX. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Men, if you're struggling with erectile dysfunction or PE and frustrated taking pills that don't work, Paramount Men's Medical Center offers breakthrough medical treatments that effectively treat your problem. 98% of patients experience immediate results during their first office visit. And for a limited time, your initial consultation and first treatment are completely free. Listen to a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Brown. The physicians at Paramount Men's Medical Center offer the most advanced treatments that eliminate ED and PE. Now men are lasting 30, 60, 90 minutes or longer, regardless of age or medical history.
Guys, to eliminate your frustration in the bedroom, call Paramount Men's Medical Center now to take advantage of this exclusive limited-time offer. Your initial consultation and first treatment are totally free, and you'll see instant results right in the office. Call now, 314-720-8081. 314-720-8081. That's 314-720-8081.
Mid-America's most trusted source for news. KMOX.
At 1 o'clock, we have clear skies, 56 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Stuart McMillan. More details emerge about the notebook left behind by Monday's school shooter.
This is Kevin Killeen at police headquarters. The police chief says the gunman in Monday's shooting had more than just a general vendetta against the school, that he had a specific list of individuals he was targeting. The chief says he was not sure whether the health teacher who was shot and killed, the woman, was on that list. And Chief Michael Sack, as he was leaving, it was asked how many people were on the list, and he said, I don't know, I'd have to check. At police headquarters, Kevin Killeen, KMOX News.
St. Louis Interim Police Chief Michael Sack says the gunman's family had been working with mental health professionals.
The impression that I get from the investigator who spoke to the mother is that they've done everything that they could possibly have done, but sometimes that's not enough. Mental health is a terrible thing, and we can't anticipate what will come, but the family peers have done everything that they could have possibly done.
Sack says Orlando Harris's mother and adult sister tried to keep tabs on him. They were aware that he had acquired a firearm and worked with St. Louis police to transfer the weapon to an adult, but somehow he was able to get it back. Still, questions remain about how the gunman got into the school. Chief Sack wouldn't go into details on that during the press conference, thinking it would give copycats an idea of what to do. Instead, he thanked nearby construction workers who happened to have tools police could use to get them into that locked school.
So something as simple and mundane as some tools can mean the difference between the life and death of a child or a parent inside that building. So it may not seem like a lot, but it was a powerful gesture. So I appreciate those workers who provided us with those critical tools needed at that time.
He also thanked the officials at Schnucks grocery store for showing up and giving water to the students and police officers there at the scene where kids gathered after that shooting took place. St. Louis police now investigating a shooting at the BP gas station on Grand by Park, which is near the medical campus of St. Louis University. The victim was taken to the hospital by private convenience. His condition was not released. A man charged with the killing of 6 people and injuring dozens of others by driving his SUV into a Christmas parade near Milwaukee has been found guilty of dozens of charges.
I'm Peter King. The charges included reckless endangerment, intentional homicide, and hit and run.
Did the accident involve death to Virginia Sorensen? Answer, yes.
took the judge close to a half hour to read through all 76 counts and verdicts. The jury finding Darrell Brooks guilty of all of them for driving his SUV into the crowd attending the Waukesha Christmas parade last year. Brooks sat with his hands folded on his forehead as he heard the word guilty over and over. Each of the 6 homicide counts carries a mandatory life sentence. Peter King, CBS News.
Now 3 men have been convicted in Michigan in a scheme to kidnap the state's governor.
3 men have been convicted of aiding a conspiracy to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020. The verdict read by the jury foreman was the same for all 3 defendants.
Count 1 of gang membership felonies, we find the defendant guilty. Count 2, providing material support for an act of terrorism, we find the defendant guilty. Count 3, weapons, felony firearm, we find the defendant guilty.
Prosecutors said the plot grew out of anger and resentment over restrictions the governor imposed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Jim Crisula, CBS News.
From the First Mid-Bank and Trust Business Desk, number 50, Adam Wainwright is returning to the Cardinals next year. And the Cardinals making a few other changes elsewhere. We know there's no more Skip Schumacher, but KMOX's Sports' Joe Pott says pitching coach Mike Mannix and hitting coach Jeff Albert not returning next season. There's a crash 370 westbound at 270, the right shoulder there. Stalled vehicle 270 northbound just before I-64, the right shoulder affected just a little while ago. And your weather for this afternoon? Let's go to Dave Murray.
Still on the windy side going through the afternoon, but those winds will fade quickly with the setting sun. It's sunny. It's a cool day. 62 for the high. Tonight, clear, cold, 37. Thursday, sunny, light winds, cool temperatures, 62. And Friday, bit of a changeable sky, a mix of clouds and sunshine, 62 once again. I'm meteorologist Dave Murray for the Voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average at this hour, up 122 points. In St. Peter's, it's 58 degrees. Florissant has 56 degrees reported right now. The same degree mark downtown at the Arch with a clear sky. I'm Stuart McMillan, KMOX News.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444.
Show. It's coming up on 106. We are going to check in with Matt Pauley at 1:30. Matt was at Busch Stadium earlier. John Mozeliak.
A lot of Cardinals news today.
A lot of stories. They're going to be a new pitching coach, a new hitting coach, a new bench coach because Skip Schumacher is the manager of the Marlins now. We got a little update on Nolan Arenado and whether or not he's going to opt in or opt out. We did have the news about Adam Wainwright, which is great. And by the way,
he's going to join us.
Wayno's going to join us on Friday.
That's right. Friday at 10 o'clock.
Friday at 10 o'clock. We'll talk about him coming back for 2023. So we do have a lot to cover. And also, by the way, I heard via the Twitter that John Mozeliak said payroll will go up for next year. We don't know how much that means, but everybody's talking about that.
Ranji guessed it would go up by.
No, I said if it goes up $1, that means it's gone up.
Yeah. Anyway,
they'll get into it.
They'll go more than that.
They better. Come on, let's go.
It's exciting.
That'll be at 1:30. A lot of news from Busch Stadium today that we'll sort through that with Matt Pauley. Right now, we have Rick Stream with us. He is the Republican Director of Elections for St. Louis County. Obviously, the election right around the corner on November 8th. And all of us have questions about process and certainly big topics in election security heading into November 8th. Rick, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on.
Well, Rick, people have questions, about election security, maybe what they can expect going into polling places. What do you guys have in place and what have you been planning for November 8th?
Sure. Well, a lot of things. It's a big, wide open question there. First, I'd like to say we're a bipartisan election board, so we have a Republican and a Democrat for every position in our office. And everything that we do in this office is done in a bipartisan manner, from the building of the election before we get the ballots printed or anything like that, all the way through to where people vote. All of our poll workers have to be bipartisan. I mean, we have Republicans and Democrats. We operate under state law, which requires a bipartisan nature in this respect. So when people come in to vote, they're going to have Republicans and Democrats checking them in at the polling places on the electronic poll books. To print out their ballot. And of course, in St. Louis County, if you're registered to vote in St. Louis County, you can vote at any one of our 239 different polling places. We have that Vote Anywhere feature. So, and it'll print out the ballot for their home for their precinct. So the bipartisan team will do that, and then the voter fills out the ballot and puts it into the scanner, again, all under the guidelines of a bipartisan nature. So all of our ballots are secure in the fact that we have basically the chain of custody is complete on all of our ballots. All of our equipment, none of it's ever connected to the internet. We have a 24/7 chain of custody of all of our equipment. So I think for St. Louis County, and I think the rest of Missouri too, but for St. Louis County in particular, where I work, things are very, very secure. And I will say this, I ran in elections for 25 years for school board, state representative, county executive 8 years ago, and state senate. I had no idea how complicated and complex it was to run elections in St. Louis County. But I think for the people's assurance, physical security and cybersecurity is 100% here in St. Louis County.
Well, we've seen across the country there are different feelings about that. I'd imagine there are people in Missouri who feel that it's not secure and that it's easy to be compromised. What plans are in place, or what happens if I'm sure you've seen what's been going on in Arizona recently, where there are people who are camped out by drop boxes and they're armed and they're covering up license plates and they're covering up their faces. And there's this effort to intimidate, it seems like, voters. Is there anything that is done to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen around here, or people don't feel like they're being threatened if they go to the ballot box?
Well, we haven't heard anything like that here in Missouri, or certainly in St. Louis County. Well, number one, Missouri, all 50 states have different rules as far as voter registration and absentee voting, early voting, drop boxes, things like that. Missouri has some of the strictest rules on voting in the country. We do not have drop boxes. And you have to get an absentee ballot, you actually have to request one. We don't mail ballots to everybody. That has to be requested. So, and we check signatures on the envelopes that the ballots come back in. So, and that signature has to match what's in the Missouri centralized voter registration system. So, I think everything is very secure. Again, if somebody wants to bring their absentee ballot to our office or to a satellite location, which opens tomorrow, that they have to show identification as to who they are. They have to sign that, and then they watch us drop it into the box inside the polling place. We don't have them outside where anybody could dump in a bunch of ballots at midnight or anything like that. No, they have to come into our location, show us identification, sign the ballot, and then they see us put it in the box ourselves. So I think it's again, different laws for different states, but here in Missouri and in St. Louis County, it's very secure.
What kinds of identification are accepted?
Sure. That changed with the new law that was passed this past legislative session, House Bill 1878. And it requires a photo ID, a Missouri driver's license, a Missouri non-driver's license, a U.S. passport, a military ID, and they have to be non-expired, except if it was expired since the last general election, which was the presidential election in November of 2020. If the ID has expired since then they can still vote. Now, if people do not have one of those forms of ID, but they are registered to vote in the state of Missouri, they can vote a provisional ballot. So they'll vote the ballot. It'll go into a blue provisional envelope, which is not scanned into our scanners at the polling places. And they have to fill out a bunch of information on the front of that blue ballot, their name, address, and they also have to sign it. And those blue provisional ballots, we get them every election. We have some people that have to vote provisional. We check those once they come back in the next few days. We have 2 weeks after the election to certify the results, and that's part of the certification is to adjudicate the blue provisional ballot envelopes to see if those people really are who they say they are. If we adjudicate, again, it's a bipartisan process. Once it's adjudicated that the ballot, the envelope is who they say they are, then it is opened up and that ballot is then counted. If it's adjudicated that it doesn't look right, that something doesn't match, that envelope will not be opened and the ballot will not count. So again, the legislature made these changes, and we're just making sure that we enforce it. Again, if people are registered to vote and they come in with some form of identification, they can vote one way or the other, either through the normal process or through provisional.
Rick Stream is with us. He is the Republican Director of Elections. And as Rick mentioned at the beginning, this is a bipartisan group. The Democratic Director of Elections for St. Louis County is Eric Fay. So you mentioned how this is balanced down the road. You've got people working for both or from both parties, both perspectives, making sure that things are, as you put it, bipartisan moving forward. This is St. Louis County, and that's a huge part of our listening audience. And I know you have experience having been in the Missouri State House. How many counties around us, or do you know if that the others are similar or if they're dissimilar based on where people might live? I know I don't want to get into the exact spots, but your understanding of the state, are there similar mechanisms in place elsewhere?
Well, I think in Missouri, there are 6 bipartisan election boards, 2 here in the St. Louis area, the St. Louis City Election Board and the St. Louis County Election Board, and then 4 bipartisan election boards over in the Kansas City area.
Okay.
The rest of the state has elected county clerks. All right, they are elected. I'm not elected. I was hired to do this job by 4 commissioners, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, appointed by the governor and also then confirmed by the state Senate. They're my bosses, but the rest of the state's counties have elected county clerks who do not just elections, but they do everything in the county: taxes, waivers, permits, assessments, all that stuff. And again, the state law requires equal numbers of Republicans and Democrats in the office as well as at the polling places. So even though they certainly have a lot fewer ballots to process. We had 540,000 ballots to process for the presidential election in 2020. The rest of the counties have much fewer than that, but they have fewer people working too.
Right,
so
right.
I think the rules are the same. Sometimes there's nuances, different ways. For instance, we have 6 satellite locations, including our office, that are going to be open tomorrow. Most counties do not have satellite locations. The people, if they want to vote early, absentee, they're going to have to go to the county seat where the election board office is to vote. So we try to make it a little more accessible for people to vote early, because that's what it is now. Starting tomorrow, it's basically early voting. I'm sorry, it started yesterday. It started early voting. Tomorrow we open the satellite locations. And I will say one more date. Today at 5 p.m. is the last date and time to request an absentee ballot be mailed to somebody. 5 p.m. If we don't have it in our hands, either by email or fax or something like that, we're not going to be able to mail out an absentee ballot to that person. They can still come in and vote on election day or go to one of our satellites, but we cannot mail a ballot after if we don't have an application by 5 p.m. today.
And you mentioned the email part of that or fax. Can that information be found at the county website, stlouiscountymo.gov?
That's correct. It can. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And quick question, just the deadline on the absentee ballot request being today at 5 p.m. That's because there is a turnaround process, correct? For that, can you explain that a bit more?
Sure, that's a good question. Thanks for bringing that up. We basically say it takes about a week for the mail to get from one point to the other. It may take less time, it may not. So it's a state law now that it has to be in by today at 5 p.m. because it'll take us a week to get it out to the. We mail it out immediately. We would mail it out first thing in the morning if we got it at 5 p.m. But if it takes a week, then the person has to fill it out and get it, in most cases, get it notarized and back to us in the mail. So that's why we have the 2 weeks, for one week to get there and 1 week to get back. But I will say this, if you get your ballot and you don't want to take a chance on the mail getting it to us by 7 p.m. on election night, if it's not in our hands by 7 p.m. on election night, it will not count. Then they can bring it into our office or they can take it to a satellite location and drop it off. Again, they have to show their ID, things like that.
And I know we got to let you go. One quick question on someone with no voter ID. No photo ID. They're registered to vote. They don't have a photo ID. They get a provisional ballot. Do they need another identifying piece of information like a utility bill or something like that?
Well, in the past, they've had to have it, but in this case, if they're yes, they do have to have some form of identification to prove who they are. Now, we're going to check anyway. If, for instance, if somebody comes in and says, I'm Joe Blow, and we've got Joe Blow in the registration records, but their signatures don't match, they're not going to count. Okay. So the answer to that question is no, they don't have to. It would be better if they did, but they don't.
Okay.
Rick, great information. We really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully things will go smoothly for you and the team as we head toward November 8th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I make one further request?
Absolutely.
We need Republican election workers, poll workers. We have plenty of Democrats.
Okay.
But we need Republican poll workers, and if they want to sign up, they can call us at 314-615-1865.
Okay, 314-615-1865.
That's correct.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Rick, thank you so much. That's Rick Stream, Republican Director of Elections for St. Louis County. And again, to remind everybody, as he pointed out earlier, it is a bipartisan committee. He has a fellow director who is the Democratic Director of Elections. And they do need Republican volunteers for Election Day. They got enough on the Democratic side, and it's 314-615-1865. If you go to St. Louis County mo.gov, you can find out about submitting the absentee ballot application by 5 o'clock today. Now, the simplest way I found it was just going to Google and typing in, how do I get an absentee ballot in St. Louis County? It will take you right to the page that you need, but you have to do that by 5 o'clock today, either in person, by fax, email. You're not going to get it done in the mail. And you can do it online as well. So you can check that. The best spot to do is just search absentee ballot St. Louis County. That'll get you to the right spot. All right. Like I said, we'll get to Matt Pauley, all of the news on the Cardinals coming up just after 1:30.
For everything online, it's Odyssey.com. Download the Odyssey app and listen to The Dave Glover Show and all the news, talk, sports, and podcasts that move you. Odyssey, that's AUDACY.
The Musial Awards return to Stiefel Theater Saturday, November 19th. You can be in the audience for this nationally televised event. It's the feel-good night of the year, a show you don't want to miss. Tickets at musialawards.com.
I'm Tim Fitch, former chief of the St. Louis County Police Department. At a time when violent crime threatens our kids and our communities, we need tough leaders who will stand against criminals and with our men and women in law enforcement. That's why I support Dennis Hancock for St. Louis County Council. Dennis Hancock is endorsed by the St. Louis County Fraternal Order of Police. His opponent? She's backed by groups that want to defund the police. As the mayor of Fenton, Dennis Hancock didn't make excuses for criminals, he locked them up. Dennis proudly worked with law enforcement to keep our streets and our families safe. And that's exactly what he'll do on the St. Louis County Council. I hope you'll join me in supporting Dennis Hancock this November.
Dennis Hancock for St. Louis County Council. Reform St. Louis County Now is responsible for the content of this advertising. Paid for by Reform St. Louis County Now, firesampage.com, and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
People who shop at Diamonds Direct for diamonds and engagement rings can't believe the prices.
They blew everybody else out of the water.
I saved between $1,500 and $2,000. Came here first, got a really good price, went around everywhere else, and it wasn't really even close.
I'd looked online. I'd actually shopped a couple of local stores. They could not begin to touch the size, the quality, or the pricing.
Crazy the deal that we got. Couldn't believe I was able to get into a ring like this.
Of all the places that I visited, everybody from mom and pop shops to wholesalers to local franchisees, nobody could compete from a pricing standpoint with Diamonds Direct.
It's because Diamonds Direct is a true direct diamond importer with special access to the world's most exquisite diamonds. No middleman markups and a commitment to beat any price, anywhere, anytime.
Whether it be duty-free in the Caribbean or other countries, Diamonds Direct prices have beaten everything I've looked at.
At least 20% lower than what we had been looking at other stores.
They blew everybody else out of the water.
Get the engagement ring of her dreams at the price you deserve. Diamonds Direct, your love, our passion. DiamondsDirect.com.
Hey guys, Glover here for my friends at ThrottleNet. These are the genius IT guys I've been representing for years and years now. We are number one all the time. Best in customer service from Small Business Monthly. Best in cybersecurity, again, Small Business Monthly. We have an average response time. I love this statistic. The average response time in St. Louis in 2020 by IT companies. You have a problem, you reach out to them, hey, I'm all shut down, help me. It was 3 hours. If you got back within 3 hours, you were cool. Ours was 1 minute, 57 seconds, and the guys were very unhappy with that. It takes less than 2 minutes for us to address your problems. Here's a huge thing. We are now offering $500,000 in ransom protection to everyone who uses us. This is part of the deal. You don't pay extra for it. So if you happen to be hit and you have to pay, we're going to pay it up to $500,000. Now, this shows you how confident we are because no one under our protection has ever had to pay. Go to throttlenet.com/DGS.
Trusted information, live and local. From the award-winning KMOX newsroom.
A few minutes away from catching up with our good friend Matt Pauley. Matt was at Busch Stadium earlier today. A lot of news. Adam Wainwright coming back for the Cardinals next year. Jeff Albert, Greg Maddux, and Skip Schumacher will not be coming back to the staff. Skip is now the manager of the Marlins, by the way, in case you missed that news. But the other two chose not to come back, according to John Mozeliak. And again, we'll get the latest on all of that with Matt Pauley in a few minutes. I really liked the description, the detailed description from Rick Stream a few minutes ago about the bipartisan work that these committees do in St. Louis County, in St. Louis City, and then in the 3 areas in the Kansas City area to make sure that everybody is so to make sure that there's just no question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you've got both Republicans and Democrats working to make sure things are together, and he was clear. These machines are never connected to the internet. They have full chain of custody for everything that they're using, the ballots, the box, the whole deal. I think that's important information to put out there. And it's sad that it is important, but we keep hearing, and I don't think we hear it as much here, but you keep hearing about all these potential, well, not potential, all of these rumors that things aren't the way that they're said to be. But it was great to hear that very detailed description of how it is, especially where we are.
Well, I'm grateful for poll workers, too. That's a long day. It's something like 6
it's like a 16-hour day.
Yeah, 6
It's a long
a.m. to
day.
8 p.m. or whatever it may be. My grandma was always a poll worker. She always
Oh, really?
volunteered.
And by the way, do we want to remind them?
I do. I was going to bring that up because I'm thinking I should volunteer. I should take a day off from you two and volunteer.
What would be more tiring?
I know.
The 14-hour
I
day
think
doing
it's
that
the
or
14-hour
4
day.
hours with us?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it
You
would
could
be
do worse.
I think I'd be encouraged by the community coming out to vote, more encouraging than working with you two. But
That's
again,
enough.
the Republican poll workers are needed. And if you want to volunteer for November 8th, they need Republican poll workers, 314-615-1865.
And I think it's also important to note, and correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't all poll workers around the country at every polling place? There's bipartisan
Yes.
Support from both sides. Like, we're not talking about you go to one county in the state of Arizona and it's all Democrats working the polls. That ain't how it works. Like, there are people on both sides of the aisle who are working at every polling place in the country.
I think when I was, I guess the first year I could vote, I was a teenager, but still living at home. And where we went to vote, it was such a small little area, further out west, that you'd walk in like, oh, here are the mark scores, and we'd do. And it was really fun because it was just like a little neighborhood thing. I think when you go vote, Charlie made fun of me last year. I'm very patriotic and sentimental about
Wait,
it.
I thought that never happened. I thought it was only us that did that.
No, Charlie used to make fun of me all the time.
I was kidding. It was a joke. I listened.
But it was funny because I was like, I wanted to sing my favorite song. It's a grand old flag.
It's almost 40 years of material over there. Of course, she's being made fun of her whole life.
But I love voting. I love the whole feel of it, that it's a neighborhood, that sometimes your local poll workers because it's Judy down the street.
Yeah.
You can just call Judy.
Hey, we're gonna
have to wait for election day.
Gladys?
I don't think
Is that
Judy's going to help us with the Cardinal stuff, but Matt will. Matt Pauley's going to join us after the 1:30 news. We'll tell you what's happening at Busch Stadium. A lot of news regarding Adam Wainwright's return, some coaches not returning, and the status of Arenado's options. We'll get to all that with Matt Pauley after the 1:30 news.
Looking for smart, intelligent conversation in your afternoon?
Isn't it amazing to you guys, observing life, how smart the American public is? Because we all knew that.
Then you need The Dave Glover Show.
Whenever I did jury trials, I always trusted the juries. Like somehow they took it seriously and they typically came to the right conclusion, even if it was against me. Like, yeah, you got me on that. And I feel that way about the American people as a whole. Like, we're smart.
Make the smart choice. The Dave Glover Show. Weekdays beginning at 2 on KMOX.
So I have a new client to tell you guys about, Doctors Birdie and Malhotra from Ophthalmology Associates. You've heard about them for years. Charlie Brennan, Tom Ackerman, Trish Gazelle, so many personalities have gone to see these doctors. I recently went myself. I have a very slight prescription, but I have something called narrow angle glaucoma in my family, so I have to be really careful about that. I had the best exam I've ever had from the most courteous professional people I've ever dealt with. Put aside all the puffery, put aside all of my salesmanship. These are the best eye doctors in town. They're so professional, so competent. Their staff are so friendly. Everything about them, whether it's a LASIK procedure or it's simply eyeglasses or sunglasses, whatever it is, these are the guys. 314-966-5000. That's 314-966-5000 or online at youridoc.com for Doctors Birdie and Malhotra at Ophthalmology Associates.
Hi guys, it's Andrew. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Well, today, Wednesday, October 26th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pineview Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow, treating the root cause problem of ED. It's backed by 60 studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain that spark in the bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. Also, a gift that can produce rapid results in the bedroom. You're going to love that, guys, trust me. And today only, we're offering 5 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is unprecedented, worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify free. 314-530-7777. That's 314-530-7777. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Pineview Medical Clinic now to qualify. 314-530-7777.
At 1:30, we have 57 degrees downtown at the Arch and a clear sky. I'm Stuart McMillan. Police released more information on the notebook pinned by Monday's school shooter. KMOX's Kevin Killeen reports.
The notebook tells the story of a troubled man who had a deep disconnect for the school. According to Police Chief Michael Sack, the gunman not only targeted the school, but specific individuals. Who they were and how many he was targeting, the chief would not elaborate. But the chief says that while the gunman was living with his mother and a sister, the family knew that he had acquired a gun. They did not know about his notebook, though, even though they would search his room, including one entry that said, "I feel like I'm living a double life. They don't know what I'm planning," that he was planning a school shooting, but the family didn't know.
Rumors circulating about a second shooter were dispelled by interim police chief Michael Sack during a press conference today. He made it clear there was only one shooter. Stalled vehicle 270 northbound just past Manchester. MoDOT says that could be another 20 minutes before that delay is cleared up. Weather is sponsored by Reinhold Flooring. A high of 60 expected today. We're getting close to that. Low around 41 tonight. Mainly clear. A high around 63 for tomorrow with clouds and sunshine. 66 Friday, 68 Saturday, and some clouds there on Saturday, and no rain expected any of those days except for Sunday. A possible chance of rain there, high of 61. Want beautiful first-class flooring at a competitive price? Call Reinhold Flooring with professional craftsmen and a knowledgeable, caring sales staff that helped earn them St. Louis Magazine's best flooring store 2 years in a row. Schedule a free in-home measure and consultation at reinholdflooring.com. Weather right now in St. Peter's, 58 degrees, 57 in Florissant, and 57 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Stuart McMillan, KMOX News.
This month's Zero Res special. The more you clean, the more you save. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129 or 5 rooms starting at $199. A 43% savings. Take $75 off any air duct cleaning package. Call 314-474-2020 or go to ZeroResSTL.com.
Driven by the Bomarito Automotive Group, the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Tom Ackerman here for Building Community with Busey Bank, a podcast series easily accessible at KMOX.com/community banking. This month, the United Way celebrates 100 years of helping those in our region. And of course, Busey Bank continues its long-standing involvement. Our October podcast focuses on what the United Way means to our community and the many ways you can get involved. Listen to our October podcast, Building Community with Busey Bank, at KMOX.com/community banking.
Your home of the Cardinals.
Arenado swings and hits it deep to left field. That ball is out of here.
The Billikens.
Jumper. Yes! Billikens win!
The Chiefs.
Touchdown! Kansas City!
We are America's sports voice, KMOX.
A lot of news from the ballpark today. Chris Ranji, Amy Marks, of course, Kevin Wheeler with you here. John Mozeliak had media availability at 11:30. There was a lot of ground to cover, and thankfully, our buddy Matt Pauley was there, and we'll get all the latest from him. You'll find Matt on Twitter, by the way, at Matt Pauley on air. We could start any number of places, Matt. How about we just start with the news that came earlier with Adam Wainwright returning, which is obviously a big deal to give the team an idea of exactly what they're looking at in terms of what they control in the rotation going into the offseason.
Yeah, it creates some pitching depth in the rotation. Thanks for having me on. It also it sets up the financial situation a little bit.
Wait, hold on a second. I'm sorry. No. Listen.
So
I want to say this, Matt. I want to say this. I was pretty rude right there. I got right into the business. Didn't say hello. Didn't say how you doing. So I apologize. It's great to have you. You're our buddy. Thank you for joining us.
You can't just get to the business.
I know. I mean, we've been pretty serious lately and doing all the business stuff, and I just was in business mode. But Matt, we love you. Thanks for coming on.
I'm glad to be on. No offense taken. Yeah, so the Wainwright stuff.
That was great.
Can we just start over?
No, you're just keep going.
Kevin already ruined it.
You're good. I ruined it already. No need to go back into the past and do it again.
Speaking of going back to the past, I already had to apologize to Matt Pauley for being super mean to him during Studio Feud. I thought about it all weekend and apologized to him on Monday because we were on Studio Feud together.
Which is one of the most ridiculous apologies I've ever received. You were not mean at all.
So anyway, how about Wainwright?
Right. Yeah, so Adam Wainwright. All right, so yeah, you create some pitching depth of rotation. You're going to go into spring with more than 5 starters. He's going to be one of them. It kind of helps you. He's going to be a fairly high price ticket item. He was making $17-18 million last year. You would think he's going to come back for about the same number. So that creates a little bit more. You just know where you're at from a payroll standpoint. John Mozeliak did say multiple times today that payroll is going up next year. He was very clear on that. So, and I think the big question is, what that thing that Wainwright tweeted out a couple weeks ago about, the flaw that he had found, and that's why he wasn't as effective over the last, 6 weeks or so of the season. Is that a real thing? Like, is that something that he's going to have figured out and he's going to go back to being the guy next year that he was this past year in April, May, June, July? And if you get that version of Adam Wainwright, you'll take him pitching every 5th day.
Yep, for sure.
Well, so that thing is settled. So I really want to get in depth more on what happens next, because you do have, as we talked about earlier, there are a lot of bodies there. There are a lot of candidates that can be in the rotation. But at this point, how certain do you feel about the candidates they do have that they can be good and they can be really good when playoff time rolls around?
Yeah, I think those are two really different questions. They can all be good. They can all provide you wins during the regular season. I think you look at what has happened this year in the National League playoffs specifically, but playoffs overall, but let's just focus in on the National League. It's been the teams who have had those kind of high-level, high-performing starters who have performed well in the playoffs. And Frank Cusimano was on with me on Sports Open Line maybe a week ago, and he made the point that when you look at the Phillies and when you look at the Padres, you look at some other teams, there's a bunch of teams that all of the starters that they had, where you would take them over whoever your top guy was with the Cardinals. Now, if Jack Flaherty returns to form, maybe that changes that narrative a little bit because he can be that super high-level guy. But I do think a question the Cardinals need to ask themselves this offseason is whether or not they need to go get another really high-level starting pitcher. And if you do that, that's going to cost you money. That is the most expensive thing that exists in baseball, the high-level starting pitcher, which we can argue the Cardinals don't totally have right now.
Well, it would be Jack Flaherty of that ability, but I mean, you've had injuries each of the last 3 years, so there's a question mark about that. And you mentioned the depth, and it's certainly there, but we also have to keep in mind too, there's an active trading off season, and there are a lot of ways to move pieces around. So with Wainwright back, he wouldn't be a guy that's traded. I wouldn't think Michaelis would be either, but there's still Jordan Montgomery, mentioned Flaherty, and I doubt Flaherty would be going anywhere. But Steven Matz, Dakota Hudson. And there are a lot of ways to look at this. We don't just have to say these guys are here now and they're all going to be here in the spring.
Yeah, I certainly feel like we could see a Dakota Hudson be part of a move. I mean, just his whole arc this past year and the way he was spoken about after games. And even today, Mozeliak was asked about him and said that they do believe in him as being a high-level starter when he's able to work with pace and when he's able to throw strikes. But yeah, he's a guy. If they are active in the trade market this year, and it feels like there'd probably be a better chance of them. We keep talking about a high-level starter. It feels like there would be a better chance of them acquiring that guy via trade than via free agency. And if you make one of those kind of blockbuster moves, a player like Dakota Hudson seems like somebody who could absolutely be part of that deal.
Well, Matt, with Skip Schumacher, another Cardinals bench coach is now an MLB manager. How do you like that fit?
Yeah, you know what? That's a really tough job. And I almost feel like it doesn't even matter how good of a manager he is going to be. The Braves might be the best run organization in baseball. They're not going anywhere. The Mets are going to continue to spend more money than just about anybody. And the Phillies are in the World Series. And even the Nationals, when they decide that they want to play and want to win, they're able to do that. And they just had that Soto trade where they reinfuse their organization with talent. So that division and the AL East are probably the two toughest divisions of baseball. So he's going to go into a place that doesn't really seem overly committed to spending, and they're going to have to try to find a way to win games. And I think the hope there is going to be that they can maybe be a third-place team like the Phillies were this year, and that'll be enough for them to get into the playoffs and maybe go into a run. He's going to be a perfectly fine Major League manager. I just don't know if the win-loss record in Miami is going to reflect that.
And anybody who wants to hear a little bit more about that, you had Craig Mish on last night. Craig covers the Marlins at Major League Baseball. So KMOX.com and head to the Sports Open Line podcast page if you want to hear a bit more about that. Now, that's just one move on the coaching staff, Matt. And we heard about that news breaking yesterday. So you got to replace the bench coach and Skip Schumacher. But Jeff Albert and Mike Maddox are not going to be back either. And if I heard from the press conference correctly today, Mo said that he was ready to have offers for them and bring them back, but the two of them both decided to do something else.
Yeah, both those guys are gone. Brian Ebsgaard going to leave the staff as well. He's going to take a special assistant role. So they've got 4 openings on the Major League coaching staff now, and Maddox just wants to do something different, and they don't really know what that's going to look like. It sounds like Albert was a little bit maybe frustrated with he took a lot of criticism, and fair or not fair, just you read between the lines of what was said today. It certainly felt like he had enough of that. The organization was very clear that they wanted both those guys back, and they value both of those individuals. Albert was given a ton of credit today by Mozeliak for kind of redoing the pitching philosophy and pitching system. I think just making it more modern. That was a big thing when they named him the hitting coach a few years ago. So those are so you don't see Major League coaches leave staffs very often on their own accord. At the same time, this is really the first opportunity for Ollie Marmol to put his stamp. And obviously it's going to be him and Mozeliak and Michael Gerson, the entire front office, looking at these candidates. But this is going to start to really become Marmol staff, where really previously it was Schultz staff plus Schumacher.
I fought this hitting coach battle for about 15 years that people absolutely overrate how important the hitting coach is. Not that he doesn't have a job to do, but I think they overestimate how much influence they have on the offense. And what you really want to do is add more good hitters. And that's how your offense improves. But keeping that in mind, they're going to have to fill the position. Do they do it in a similar manner with somebody who's younger, thinks of it in a more modern way, or do they go back to the old school guy who's been around for a long time?
No, it'll be somebody. I mean, I don't know about the age, but it'll certainly be somebody who looks at it in a more modern way. And the hitting philosophy for the organization is not changing. So what Jeff Albert was teaching, for lack of a better term, is going to continue to be taught by whoever is in that role. And I'm with you. I don't understand people's fascination with hitting coaches. They go out and throw BP. They'll watch film with you and try to find some things. They'll give you some tips. But these are major league hitters who have been hitting for a really long time, and every swing is its own very unique thing. And these guys know what they need to do. I will never understand why people focus in on the hitting coach so much. Like every single major league hitting coach is qualified to be in that job.
It's because people know what an offensive coordinator in football is, and they assume the hitting coach is the same exact thing as an offensive coordinator in football.
It's also easy to fire one person to fix problems as opposed to changing the roster. So people are like, if you just get rid of this guy, we can be better, which is, of course, nonsense.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if there is a job in sports where you take all the grief if your unit is going wrong and get none of the credit if things are going well. Because nobody's ever like, oh, man, look at how the offense is going. That hitting coach sure knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And I think people need to understand, too, that where these offensive philosophies matter most is in the development of young players, which is why what you're saying about sticking with somebody with a similar philosophy, which won't be hard, by the way, because this is the way that people view hitting now, the way that Jeff Albert looks at it, the way that they teach things. That's the common view now. It is not the outlier, because what you have are a lot of young guys that are learning how to swing and how to hit and how to make adjustments on the fly. And by the time you get to the big leagues, ideally, especially the time you're a veteran, you know those things. But keeping that continuity for Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker and the other prospects that are coming up is more important than worrying about what that person's name value is at the major league level.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just assume that they kind of stay in the organization or stay with somebody who's, like you said, everybody's kind of teaching the same stuff right now. So, but get somebody that fills that role. Well, now when it comes to a pitching, we still see a team that's got a very young manager in Oliver Marmol, and I do think there is a need to have some experience on that coaching staff, and maybe that does come in the pitching coach. Certainly, from a bench coach perspective, I think it would be if they can go get a former major league manager to come in as the bench coach and just be a guy that can help Marmol a little bit. Not that he really needs that much help, but you're losing a Mike Maddox. You're losing so much experience on that staff. You got to fill that somewhere.
All right, so we'll see, and obviously they have the question too, philosophically, pitching wise, because the Cardinals' pitching philosophy has always been a little more old school. They're not as big on the high velocity up in the zone, get swings and misses. They've definitely been more in the let's pitch to contact thing. So I'll be curious to see where they go there. But instead of doing that now, Matt, let's talk about Nolan Arenado, because that's another big thing that we're waiting to get, I guess you could say, closure on. We're waiting for some finality on that, and Mo did at least give us a hint today about Arenado's status.
Yeah, it took a really positive spin on it. I thought it was interesting. We've all talked about whether or not he's going to be a contract renegotiation. Mo kind of put that away and said it's either going to be an opt-in or an opt-out. It's going to be one or the other for Arenado. I also thought it was really interesting, and this just tells you about sports in today's day and age. When those two met recently, Arenado was asking a lot of questions. How much money are you going to spend? Where you're going to be allocating resources, things like that. It almost felt like Arenado was interviewing Mozeliak to find out about the direction the organization was going. You would never hear about a player doing that with a GM, a president of baseball operations 10, 15, 20 years ago. But Arenado's holding the cards right now. He can opt in or he can opt out. He's such a huge part of this team. He has every right to find out what the path is going to be for this team.
Any chance that this team goes outside the organization to find offensive help?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think they'll be active in free agency. Sure. A bat or two. First off, we've talked a lot about the catcher position, and they're going to find a catcher who's going to give you at least a little bit more offense than what Molina was doing last year. And they're also, like we've talked, are they going to do the whole Kisner Herrera thing next year? Are they going to bring somebody else in? Well, the idea of it just being a Kisner Herrera tandem next year, that wasn't even brought up today. It is very clear that they are looking outside the organization for a top catcher, but then they're going to bring in another bat as well. They talked about maybe, especially looking from the left-handed side. The fact that Mozeliak kept talking about the fact that they are going to spend more money next year. The payroll's going up. That tells you they're going to bring some guys in.
Matt, you're the best, buddy. We appreciate you. Have fun. You got a lot of material now for the rest of the week.
Yep, absolutely.
Anything you want to tease us about for the next few nights?
Well, a lot of these cuts from Mozeliak, we're going to play a lot of them and react to them tonight on Sports Open Line and moving forward. So we're going to really break down pretty much every word that he said today.
Have fun with it, man. Thank you so much for doing this. We'll talk to you soon.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
There you go. That's Matt Pauley. You'll find him on Twitter at Matt Pauley on air. And, of course, you'll find him tonight on Sports Open Line, breaking down the latest from what we heard today, which was a lot. There are a lot of news from today. All right, coming up next, you got something, Amy?
Well, and remind people we'll be chatting with Adam Wainwright.
Friday.
Right, Adam Wainwright coming back for 2023, and he'll be back on the show Friday morning right around 10 o'clock when we kick things off, which will be a hell of a lot of fun. All right, I want to remind, we got one more thing to follow up on. We talked about the need for Republican poll workers.
Yes.
I want to update that with a quick bit of information, and then we'll give out that number again and all that when we come back on the show.
The roller coaster. No matter your age, no matter the amusement park, it never ceases to bring the emotional goods, the anticipation, the excitement. And then the fear and adrenaline rush that comes with the king of all rides. The same can be said when it comes to your retirement. Lots of questions and concerns that for some can feel like a roller coaster. Will you be able to continue to live as comfortably as you do now? Will you have complete financial independence? Will you run out of money? How about taxes, Social Security, or healthcare? Steve All and his team at the All Financial Group can answer these questions and more with their in-depth portfolio x-ray. Call 636-230-8824 or visit theallfinancialgroup.com. And let's save the fear and adrenaline rush for the amusement park.
Investment advisory services offered by All Financial Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor in Missouri. Insurance products are offered through its affiliate, All Insurance Group, LLC, licensed in Missouri and Illinois.
This is Corey with Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling. Shopping around for new HVAC systems is something nobody ever wants on their to-do list. So let's help make things easier with free estimates on new equipment, up to $2,150 on Carrier Cool Cash rebates, and 0% financing for up to 72 months. With over 50 years of award-winning service, you can trust Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling with your new system install. For details and to get in your comfort zone, contact Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling at aircomfortservice.com. That's aircomfortservice.com.
Men, if you're struggling with erectile dysfunction or PE and frustrated taking pills that don't work, Paramount Men's Medical Center offers breakthrough medical treatments that effectively treat your problem. 98% of patients experience immediate results during their first office visit. And for a limited time, your initial consultation and first treatment are completely free. Listen to a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Brown. The physicians at Paramount Men's Medical Center offer the most advanced treatments that eliminate ED and PE. Now men are lasting 30, 60, 90 minutes or longer, regardless of age or medical history.
Guys, to eliminate your frustration in the bedroom, call Paramount Men's Medical Center now to take advantage of this exclusive limited-time offer. Your initial consultation and first treatment are totally free, and you'll see instant results right in the office. Call now, 314-720-8081. 314-720-8081. That's 314-720-8081.
The show, sponsored by Straight Realty, your St. Louis area experts. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444. Amy Marks Course.
This is my show, my microphone.
On the show.
All right, just to wrap up, we had Rick Stream on earlier with the St. Louis County Board of Elections, and they need Republican election judges. Now, everything's done on a bipartisan basis. He said they have enough Democratic judges lined up to go, but they need people
poll
that
workers.
are Republican poll workers. 314-615-1865 is the number. You can also email eworker@stlouiscountymo.gov, or you can just go to that site. There's an online application and all that. But I wanted to point out one thing. We had a texter in the 314 make a point that would correct. I think I said they were volunteers. They're not. You get paid for this. So if you're doing that, you're going to get paid to work that day. It's not a volunteer job.
But yeah,
There you
I
go.
mean,
Although there's no such
I
thing as a
can't-
volunteer job, right? It's either a volunteer position or a job.
Unless, have you heard the phrase voluntold?
Well, there's probably this I don't know. There probably is some kind of thing about like you probably don't have to do a W-2 or any of that stuff. Like, so what do they call it technically?
I don't know. All I know
do they
is
pay you in cash?
Individual contractors.
Is there a check?
You're just gonna hand out. Yeah, here's some side cash.
Here's some Lion's Choice gift
I'm
cards.
gonna guess you're gonna
which would
get
be
a
great.
check at some kind.
I feel like this is not a hard question to answer. We just don't
Anyway, you
happen
just
to
get
know
paid
it right now.
You
Yeah.
get paid for it.
Yep. Got to be
So-
at least 18 years of age. You have to be a registered voter. You do have to declare party affiliation because, again, they need Republican poll workers. You have to do a training course. You need to be able to have transportation to and from the polling place that you're going to be assigned to, a working email address, and a phone number. And you cannot be related to anybody that's on a ballot.
Oh, that's
That's a
interesting.
very important
That's
piece
a
of
good
bit of
rule. I
information.
like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one. I just want to remind people of that because I don't think I was clear enough earlier when when I referred to it as a volunteer
You were
position.
highly unclear.
I was not only unclear, I was passing off bad information.
Oh my gosh, Kevin.
It is a paid position. It is not a volunteer position.
Speaking of not clear, like I wrote down the phone number for this, and it's so I use an iPad for notes. I got the little pen. Yeah,
100.
yeah. Because what?
I don't know.
I'm in the-
It's
I'm
kind
in
of
the-
an old person thing, isn't it?
No.
an old person thing would be to have a pencil.
Yeah, you
and write
weirdo.
it down on
Stylus.
and it would be
Yes,
like one
because
of those
they're-
reporters'
it's an-
notepads.
Yeah, it's an Apple Notes app. That's what I'm using. With
Huh.
the,
That would be Amy.
it's
What the
very
kids do.
modern. What are you talking about?
I use a spiral bound notebook, so that's why I can cast
That-
aspersions.
Anyway.
your
No,
way.
that would be
Here,
what the
look at this number,
older
and
generation does.
if you didn't know what the election number is, would you be able to read that?
Well, I think you just hit
Oh, I
something
hit-
else.
I hit
Let me-
something
let me
wrong.
look back.
Okay, would you be able to read
Looking at
this?
his iPad.
All right, I know this is not great radio.
314-615-1 mystery number 6
Yeah.
mystery number.
But look how well. All right, so this is.
And by the way, it's 1865 if you want the right number.
No. It's 1865.
314-615-1865. But his is kind of a fun little guessing
But the
game.
iPad is able to read numbers and like put it into text.
Yeah.
Look how well it deciphered my bad number.
The
My bad
iPad
writing. It's great.
Got the correct number. That's
Nice.
very impressive.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm very impressed with this Apple product, which means I'm totally going to get an iPhone now.
Oh,
No,
I
you're
cannot
not.
wait.
No,
Guys,
please do,
I
though.
think
I'm so
every-
tired of the green bubbles.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
stop with
ladies
your
and
green
gentlemen,
bubbles.
Ranji is the green texter in a group thread.
Yeah.
And we
Get
need
over
you
it.
to join us in pressuring him in a very kind but
Get over
but
it.
persuasive way
Get over it.
to get an iPhone.
Get over it.
It's
Get over it. That is not what you wrote
Like
on
when-
this piece of paper.
That's not what I wrote to you.
No.
Get over it. That's what Bob Costas told us here in St. Louis about the Rams. He said, "Get over it."
He did say that.
It was like 5 years ago.
That was a long time.
It's kind of funny. He took a lot of heat for that, and I get that too.
He's all right with that.
But yeah, like I don't care about the green bubbles, and I think you should all deal with it. Are there letters in the bubbles? Can you read the words that are there? Yes.
Yep.
So quit complaining.
When are we talking about Halloween costumes? Is it tomorrow?
Probably
Or
Friday, since it's the last day before Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to crowdsource our listeners. I need a punny costume.
Oh, of course.
A costume
You
that's
can't
a
you can't
pun.
just be creative and pick a costume. It's got to be punny.
It's not my party, but it's a themed party. Yet last year we were everyday people, and I was someone who locked herself out of her hotel room. And so this year I need a punny costume, and because I am not creative,
I'll
I'm
tell you
going to
what.
crowdsource.
I think I'm going to go as a green bubble. I'm going to go as a green bubble just to make everybody mad.
Yeah. And then they'll
That's
go,
what I'm gonna do.
What are you? And then we'll say he is the worst person in the world. That's what you are.
Get over it. But I am a weirdo who's got a Samsung phone and a Mac, like a MacBook and an Apple iPad.
You got
know?
an iPad?
That's what I've been writing on.
Don't you want synergy?
I got plenty of synergy between these two things. I don't need it with my phone.
All right.
I'm good.
You got synergy with us anyway. You're all good.
Oh, the
On most
USB-C
days.
thing, though, is going to be a lot of synergy there. We'll talk about that
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we'll talk about that tomorrow. Great show. Chris Ranji, Amy Mark Scores, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Dave Glover Show after the news on KMOX.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-day kitchen and bath. It's all about time.
3 days or less.